All right, we seem to be live on Facebook. How's YouTube looking? Sorry for those of you on Facebook for the delay and also for... Okay, we're good. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Charlie Minato. I am here in Las Vegas, Nevada at the Las Vegas Convention Center on the IPCPR Trade Show floor in the half-wheel compound. I think we're done with prepositions. I guess there's some more. So behind, or the cameras in front of me, is Patrick Lagreid, Brian, Burt, Brooks Whittington, and Heather. Please mute that, whoever did that. Sorry for that. We are running a little bit late, and it is very, very hot in here. So behind me, or in front of me, behind the cameras, are the rest of Team Half-Wheel, as well as a guest that's waiting to come in, and we're going to go through some quick housekeeping items. For those of you that are here, this is going to be a 3-hour show. We have 8 guests lined up, plus some other people may stop by. But, of course, always some housekeeping items at Half-Wheel. So, first of all, we can't smoke here because it's setup day still, and they won't let you do it because of some union labor. However, I'd like to give a shout-out to Calibri, who's let us borrow these nice ashtrays. I apparently need to hold them up, according to everyone else. Here, they'll block my face. It's wonderful. Fortunately, we can't use these today, but tomorrow, and for the next 3 Facebook Live broadcasts, which are in the morning, there's more details on the site and on Facebook about them, we'll be smoking and enjoying cigars here at the IPCPR Convention and Trade Show. Secondly, we have some contests. I want to preface this with we don't have Facebook Live shows every day, despite what we've been doing for the last 2 weeks. Certainly not 3-hour ones off-site with 8 guests and no air conditioning. That's what we're doing today. So bear with us. We're going to try to do this as best as possible. The instructions are below on Facebook. The contest is only on Facebook. The way this is going to work, at some point, Brooks is actually going to sit down at a computer, and he's going to write whenever there's a guest on. So Robert Holt is the first guest. He'll be on in a second. Brooks will write on the Half-Wheel Facebook page. Like, Brooks, you're going to actually have to do this in, like, 2 minutes. Yeah, but you probably want a computer to... Yeah. All right. So at some point, Brooks is going to write, once Robert Holt arrives, he's going to say, hey, Robert Holt's here from Southern Draw. The contest is open. We might talk about the prize pack. We may not. But it's based off the commenter. So we'll have a random number that has been selected by Brooks. So let's say the number's 10, for example. If you're the 10th commenter, then you will, if you leave the 10th commenter after Brooks says contest is open, you're the winner. Brooks will go on there and be like, hey, Steve, congratulations, you won. Please send an email to us. And then after that's done, Brooks will then say contest for Southern Draw is over, and we'll have the next contest. You can ask a question. You can leave a comment. You can leave an emoji. Just know that it's commenter, not comment. So if you leave 27 comments in a row, we're only going to count the first one. But we'll take 27 comments for Robert Holt or any of the other guests. If you can't stick around for all 3 hours, but you have a question for one of our later guests, we have put all of the information about which guest is coming on when. If that happens, just put that below. Brian Burt's back there. He's monitoring the comment section. He'll take that comment, and he'll put it into a communication channel that I may or may not look at, and I'll ask Pete Johnson or whoever it is later on today the question that you have. Each guest is going to be here for about 15 or 20 minutes, so what I would say is get your comments in early and get them in often, or your questions, I guess, and I will try to ask them as we move on. If you are lucky enough to be one of the winners today, please note that your product's probably not going to ship until about August 1st. We're obviously all here in Las Vegas, and there's a lot of delays that go on, hence why we started late today. So that's the contest details. If you have any other questions, leave a contest. Brooks and Brian are back there. They kind of look like they're trading stocks or something, so they will diligently try to answer your questions as best as possible. Once again, contest is only on Facebook. If you don't give a crap about the contest or asking questions to any of our guests, I highly recommend you go on YouTube, where the audio quality, the video quality are much better than they will ever be on Facebook, unless you're friends with Mark Zuckerberg, and then you can broadcast in 1080p. So, I think that's the contest stuff. Once again, they'll try to take your questions. If you have questions for me, you can also ask them. There's another section where they're going to let me know about those things. We're about 2 minutes away from Robert Holt coming on, so I just want to give a couple other things. There is no air conditioning. Hopefully at some point they're going to turn it on. So if you see us sweating, please know, like, it is hotter in here than it is outside, and we are in Las Vegas in the middle of July. Secondly, we're off-site, so if there's some issues with the video quality, Brooks is going to try to let me know, but if some things happen, it is what it is. We're going to try our best. Hopefully it all gets recorded and goes on YouTube at some point. Finally, if you hear loud noises, there are scissor lifts, forklifts, and a whole bunch of other stuff moving on. We are right nearby the loading docks because we didn't pay for primo space. 30 seconds, Patrick. We're good. So if you hear loud noises, these Sennheiser microphones seemingly are pretty good at catching them. However, there might be occasional loud noises. Please don't get startled. There's also the chance that if someone just stumbles into this booth, that all the walls could fall down, in which case I'll start seeing Kanye West and we can move down. So without further ado, I think we got Robert Holt from Southern Draw. He's going to come in and he's going to sweat his ass off with me. Any issues so far?
Nope.
Okay, so you're going to switch the video over. Great. Okay. Can someone create a new Slack channel that's like a direct Patrick? Oh, what goodies did you bring, Robert? Patrick, when you get a chance, can you create a specific Slack channel that's brand new for me of like when things are going poorly? Hey, Robert.
Quick question, brother.
Yeah.
Contest is on. I think you guys are coming Saturday or Sunday to one of the launches, but not both, right? Or are you not?
Probably not. You can talk to somebody over there. Or no, I'm doing it. No, unfortunately, I'll be only by once.
That's fine, but do you remember if it's Saturday or Sunday?
I believe it's tomorrow. Or no, I don't know.
Sunday we're doing the 300 hands tomorrow.
Yeah, no, I'm aware of the days. I just don't remember which. What's going on, Brooks? All right.
What's that?
Patrick, we confirm we're good with the contest here?
Contest is up. Morning. Yes.
He's good with the prize?
Yes.
Great. Do you know what you're giving away, Robert?
Sorry?
Do you know what you're giving away? We're running behind. It doesn't matter but if you do, we can plug it.
I do.
All right. Do you want to tell the people?
We're not live, are we?
We are live.
Oh, come on, guys. Come on. Boy, I dropped the ball on that one. I think for the
Hold
contest...
on. Can you do me a favor? Can you move that mic? Yeah, we want you to get really intimate with
All
it.
right. My apologies. I did not know we were live. We're always live in the world of social media, right?
I guess, you know.
Well, thanks for having me. I think for the contest, we'd like to do a couple of things.
All right.
You guys were good enough to discuss the Ignite project a couple of weeks ago, and I think you've had the Jacob's Ladder Lancero.
We have.
So today we're going to offer you guys the new Rose Perfecto. This is for you guys.
For us or for the contest?
This is for you guys.
All right.
But for the contest, we would like to offer one of the 10-count Ignite jars in the Jacob's Ladder Lancero.
Empty.
Full.
Empty. For
Empty.
FDA, empty.
Empty jars, okay, and we'll also do one in the empty Rose.
Yeah.
And then we're also going to provide a custom Southern Draw ashtray.
Wow.
Handmade woodwork that we have, and it's going to have a sampling of the 2 new releases that we're going to have at the show. Yeah.
Empty, but it might have some stickers.
Yeah, it'll have stickers and bands.
Stickers from the show.
How about
All
that?
right.
How about that?
So, I emailed you. I didn't say that just because I was emailing you, but when we started planning this out a really long time ago, despite how late this is going, there were 2 companies that I really wanted to have on here. You were one of them. And the reason why is because I think that if we look from where the last trade show started to where we are today, in a year, there are very few companies that I can think of that have had sort of the jump from this level to the next level, maybe even the next level as Southern Draw, and just in a lot of areas, and where you guys are going in terms of your retail footprint, the types of retailers that you're getting in, not just retailers that are carrying a whole bunch of small brands. And obviously, you know, you place 2 cigars in the top 10 of the consensus, which is not something that happens to most brands, even the big ones, and I don't think anyone really saw coming. Maybe you did, but we certainly didn't. As the keeper of the consensus, I didn't see that coming.
Right. You know, listen, we were blessed over the last year. You know, I would remiss to not mention that we really have good partners that maybe not everyone in the industry knows, whether it's our production partners or our box companies.
I think everyone knows AJ.
Yeah, but I don't think they know all the critical components that lead up to it.
Oh, I don't think anyone knows.
Allows us to put this together, right? So,
yeah.
You know, did we see that coming? No. We really do believe in the blends.
But it's a pretty seismic jump.
Yeah,
I mean, all things considered.
Yeah.
And it's not like, like Southern Draw wasn't really like getting cigars reviewed positively and then got cigars reviewed positively. Like, you were getting cigars reviewed positively, and then you had a couple cigars get reviewed extremely positively. And it wasn't like Southern Draw didn't have accounts. You had accounts, and then all of a sudden you had a lot of accounts, and your cigars were turning in a lot of accounts. And it wasn't like, Southern Draw's got, like, you know, some crappy accounts. You had some accounts that people want that you were doing well in, and then you've got, you know, I mean, I can't think of it. I know I was somewhat critical, or it came off as critical a couple weeks ago when we were talking about Ignite, but, like, it's a big step. There's not a lot of brands that are sort of in your realm that go into Famous and CI and JR and, you know, A, don't sell themselves out, but B, like, get a whole bunch of private labels, get them to give away some money for a good cause or a whole bunch of good causes, but also then, like, get them to get behind you. I mean, Famous in particular is aggressive with promoting you, and I know that that's not something we're going to talk about starting tomorrow morning, but, like, or you're probably not going to talk about with your brick and mortar partners, but that's a notable jump. And I think even if you're a brick and mortar, you say, like, I mean, that's a serious sign of respect that not a lot of brands your size have ever been able to get to.
You know, and I
without
appreciate
selling
it.
out.
Yeah, without selling out. But I think we've stuck to our message and our strategy. But let's think about it this way. I didn't take it as overly critical when we talked about Ignite, because that's an important topic today to discuss. Today's Southern Draw, after this trade show, we have 10 blends on the market. We have about 45 different size cigars. We have about 1,000 SKUs, if you think about it, between the samplers, the boxes, bundles. We give a variety.
Yeah.
But that all was at pre-2016 that we did a lot of homework, and we were blessed. But let's think about, laying the groundwork, laying the roots over the last 3 or 4 years. There are a lot of larger accounts, as you just mentioned a few of them, a lot of TAA accounts. They've seen brands come and go.
Yeah.
You guys in the media have seen brands come and go. And you would not be doing your job if you didn't kind of sit back and kind of make sure we're earning it, right? Make sure we're doing our job. Make sure we're going to be consistent and sustainable. And what happens is a lot of that's playing out now. We're getting more reviews. Yes, we're getting more press. It takes that for a company of our size. But when it comes to the retailers, we don't treat famous CI and JR brick and mortars any differently than we treat the local brick and mortar shops. It's the same deal, same structure, and the same amount of love, right? So these small companies, these small brick and mortars that started with Southern Draw have paved the way for the large ones to go say, hey, this product turns, and they're going to support the brand. And the media is going to support the brand. So put all those together, Charlie, and you got a pretty good path to growth, I think, that's outside of our own.
That's what we saw last year, in
Yeah.
the last 12 months. I mean, it was a multi-pronged. It wasn't like, oh, Southern Draw had success in one category. I mean, and it was a pretty massive jump, and it's one where I think that sustainability aspect, when you're accelerating, with your existing brick and mortar accounts, the guys that have been with you from the start, when you're adding TA accounts, when you're able to go to the catalogs, and hold on, sorry. I just want you to say, if you stand up with the iPad like that, it's going to freak me out. So please try to sit down or don't bring the iPad, because when you do that, it's like, oh, I need you to look at me because something's going on. Okay, thank you. Sorry. This is not our realm. But anyway, I think that, you've added, you've stayed with the accounts you've had. You added some key brick and mortars. You've gone into the catalogs. And like I said, I mean, you got them to not only not discount the living crap out of your product, but also to do projects like that where they're giving away some margin. You're giving away some margin for a good cause. They're taking in Lanceros and box press Perfecto sizes that they don't sell. Yeah, I mean, it's not what they want. But and then obviously the media aspect. I think that's a super impressive thing, and I'm curious to see. I mean, we were having a conversation. I think somebody asked a question, like what booths would you expect to be busy? And I think if I had to pick a booth, and unfortunately we unintentionally missed your booth last year, but if I had to pick a booth that seems like it's going to go from wherever it was last year to super crazy, your booth would seemingly be one of the ones on that list of where if there is a brand that people are going to seek out at this year's show, I think there's not many of them left. But you would certainly be on that list of where people that maybe came by 3 years ago that passed for whatever reason are now back because they look around and they're, the shop down the road's doing well with Southern Draw. Probably a reason why we should at least consider bringing in Southern Draw.
Well, we're cautiously optimistic. I'll tell you what, our booth this year is going to put a lot more butts in seats. Mm-hmm. It's still a comfortable, hospitable lounge. Everybody knows we're small, but everybody in that booth is family. And they're going to treat everybody else as family. And I think it's going to be a little different. We're going to have some great launches with you guys and other members of the media over Saturday and Sunday. But really, we want to see those old friends, make sure they realize that the things that we did for the Ignite project, I think this is the most important thing we did all year because of the charitable aspect, because it was a way for us to donate, retailers to donate, without the issues of the FDA deeming regs come into place. This project worked well. Now, if you think about a company of our size, Charlie, and we want to release a Lancero or a Perfecto, those are not normal Vitolas. The only way for us to put those in the market and put them in production was to do them through a charitable aspect. We'll see if there's a demand. And now what we see is these are regular production cigars coming out into those brick and mortars. So the brick and mortars, although they might have taken a little offense early on, if they would have listened to the message, now they're realizing that they're going to have access to these products in the box and the bundle format. Without those big charitable projects, we wouldn't have been able to even put them in the market.
Well, no, and I don't. You couldn't do the charitable project with the brick and mortars. I mean, you maybe with 10% of them, right, you could get them to come on board. But you also don't have the ability where with these the big guys. I mean, they have the ability to say, okay, like 400 box, 10 counts of Lanceros, we can take that. not our favorite size.
Absolutely.
Please give us a 6x60, but we'll take it, and we can sell through it, and it's not going to be a problem. We're not going to be discounting the crap out of it 6 months later, or worse, Robert Holt's not going to be walking into my shop, and I'm going to be going, Robert, I got 20 boxes of Lanceros. Like, I'm trying to help you out, but they're not selling. And that's the problem. We repeat it all the time. I love Lanceros. I love smoking Lanceros. They just don't sell. Everyone loves to love Lanceros. No one loves to buy them.
Right. Well, think about it this way. When it comes to the core blends for Southern Draw, Kudzu, Firethorn, now the Rose and Jacobs, the core sizes are Robusto, Toro, Gordo. What we didn't do is offer the big retailers with multiple channels this Ignite with the core size. We just didn't do that, right? We brought in a size that we weren't sure about. But I tell you what, I'm a Lancero fiend. I love them, and I'm proud that this project kind of allowed us to bring both the Rose and the Jacobs Lancero to market. And now we get to enjoy it, and hopefully here at the show we're offering them to all the brick and mortars now. They're in full production, so hopefully they're going to be able to enjoy some of that success, and the press and the media that has given some pretty favorable comments about the cigar. So to me this is a puzzle, and we all have a piece to it, and it's all coming together. I think if we just don't get offended by what we're doing, we try to communicate it. Maybe I'm not the best communicator all the time, but there was a strategy behind what we did. What's
your favorite AJ made Lancero? AJ doesn't make that many Lanceros now that I think about it, but we'll remove the factory obligations.
Right. The 724 Lancero, and I like the Leaf by Oscar Corojo and Sumatra, but I like the Corojo a lot.
I like the Maduro a lot.
Yeah, see, I'm not. I'd rather.
I think, or the Oscuro, one of the two of them. I don't know which one it is.
Yeah.
One of them we reviewed very highly because it was a good cigar, right. And then I walked into Stogie's in December for one of my annual pilgrimages down to Houston, and all the box is sitting there. There's 4 of them. One's empty. I'm like, what happened? And Jorge's like, someone opened their mouth up.
If I could get that Roma Craft Neanderthal Lancero elsewhere, then that would have been my first answer, because that's my profile. But it's only available there at Stogie's, as far as I know.
All right. So we have a question from a reader named Matt, or a viewer, and he wants to know what is causing the shrinking, or I guess the discontinuing of a few sizes of Quick Draw. And I know you were pretty clear about it. It was, cost goes up, and the value proposition of having a, value price cigar, if our labor cost goes up, we hit a price point where we just don't think it's sustainable.
Yeah, and that's it. That's the crux of it. But let's expand a little bit, and I appreciate the question, because it is some of my favorite cigars. I love small ring gauge, 30 to 45 minute cigars, $5 to $6. But the costs have gone up for that cigar with the pending, continuing user fees and things. I just looked at it. I don't want to have that cigar at $6.50, $7 in some markets. I'm not saying we're not going to bring it back. I'm going to say right now the Petite Corona. The Corona Gordo at $5.46 is favorable in that $6 price range. The Petite Corona and the Short Panatelle, I wouldn't pay more than $6. That wasn't the intended target. We might bring it back, but now let's offer a little tidbit to him for asking the question. With the 300 hands launch this week, you're going to have 2 blends, and you're going to have 10 Vitolas, all in that $5.99 to $6.50 range, that are going to fill the need for a good value price cigar with a good line, but it also, to us, has a very good charitable aspect to it, which makes it important. So I think we're going to fill that void left by the 2 smaller, because we do have a Corona Gordo and a Colonial S. We have some smaller, thinner cigars in the new line.
All right. When you sit down planning the show out, was there one specific goal this year?
Absolutely. I wanted to respect our family that has done things that maybe at this show we're going to disclose it, but this Cedrus launch is about this family that gathered around us through some other failures and some other challenges financially, and they all just joined in and helped, and if it wasn't for them, Southern Draw wouldn't exist. So I wanted to share that message publicly. That's my goal number 1. And the second goal was to, after 5 years, of listening to Nicaragua and the stories, was in light of what's happened recently, I really wanted to be able to communicate a story of cigars are great, it's a wonderful culture, but there's some challenges behind it that maybe we can kind of be more mindful of. And other than that, I just want to be hospitable and everybody come try the new stuff. Hopefully they're going to enjoy it, right?
Yeah, I will say, great minds think alike. So a couple years ago, we Brooks is going to try to hand you a towel because it is hot.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Words I'm supposed to not say.
You got to blot that. You got to blot that.
I think we have the Quesada girls coming up, so there's going to be a lot of makeup in a second.
Clean white towel.
Yeah. So great minds do think alike. We actually, a couple years ago, were talking about doing a project but never got anywhere close off the ground that was going to be called 300 Hands. That was going to be like graphical education product about how cigars are made. And so we now have to change, because we have that Facebook page. We have to change it because people might be searching for it. But that's the Facebook page that we've been using for all of our testing. So you can go back and see like 2 years worth of Facebook Lives that have failed from our office. That is on that page. We were never going to use that. I mean, we were going to use the name at one point, but we never got close to getting that project off the ground. But it's a great name, and I'm glad that when you did it, you explained why that name is and the concept of just how hard it is. I tell people all the time, every time you're in a factory and you see the fields and you see the factory, and that's just the fields and the factory, let alone the box factory, the band factory, and the offices and everything. It is crazy to anyone that's there to think about the idea, whether it's an $8 cigar or a $500 cigar, that all this work, all these different people in all these places can do it every day with a high rate of speed and precision, and then you can get a cigar for $8 that's going to taste good for the most part, burn good, draw good for the most part, because that's not, for the level of work that goes into it, is really not probably a fair price for a cigar. Maybe $500 might be, but
it's not.
But $8 isn't.
Yeah, and I hope it goes a long way to explaining that to the average consumer, right? That's just now getting on board with us. They're following you on the media, and they're watching. The beauty of the cigar industry is apparent. Everybody shares it, but does everybody share the pain and the struggles? And I think we'll do it. But hey, listen, I'll tell you one thing. Since you mentioned what you were doing with 300 Hands before, the same way with Ignite. Ignite does not have to be a Southern Draw exclusive. We're hoping that these two concepts, the media will join us, other manufacturers will join us, other brands, and we want to see Ignite grow beyond our own means as a strategy to be charitable with new releases and special prices, but also 300 Hands. As long as we're telling the story and we're able to contribute back locally to Nicaragua, we want to invite everybody to participate if it makes strategic sense over time.
All right. Well, Robert, thank you for stopping by. I know you've got some booths set up, and the craziest part of this all is your booth is probably 15 degrees cooler than this little black box back here.
We're by the back door. Hey, listen, I'm honored. Appreciate you guys. I look forward to seeing you out here.
Yeah, and I'll let you know what day of the week I'm coming by.
Well, you'll be one of the 2 days.
It's either today or tomorrow. I don't remember which one. I try to get up, but there's a whole bunch of shit. I'll say goodbye to you. Patrick will try to escort you out. Right. We'll give a couple minutes. I need to. Are we good with what I just texted you, Brooks?
All right.
Yeah.
Good.
Sweet.
Appreciate it, brother.
Patrick, you got to do a little bit of setup for this, right? All right.
Do I get to keep my water?
You can keep your water. Brooks, I need you to. I really need you, and I'm sure everyone's going to really appreciate this. I really need you to stay seated and be monitoring the comment sections and making sure that stuff's all going, so I don't have to tell you every time that we're getting close to. Like, it's a pretty simple schedule. Every 20 minutes.
So I'm leaving, but we're not live, right?
You're still live. This whole thing. We're live for 3 hours.
All right, I'm leaving those here.
Why don't you talk to Robert? If you want to talk to Brian, he'll be your best bet here. All right, guys. So that was Robert Holt from Southern Draw, who is maybe not understanding the whole concept of 3 hours of live shows. I'm going to take this lanyard off. Is my hoodie somewhere around here?
I don't know, to be totally honest with you.
All right. That seems like a Heather question.
But we're going to keep going here.
Goodbye, Robert. All right. So once again, if you guys have general questions, we're gonna have some breaks here in between the guests. That was Robert Holt. Hopefully, we have a winner. Brooks, do we have a? Yep. All right. So Brooks will tell you what to do. Send the question or send your address to info@halfwheel.com. You may not hear back from me for like a week or so, but I will eventually do it. If you don't hear back from me, just keep sending us Facebook pages, but give us a couple days because we're super busy and doing things. Where'd the other mic stand go? Can you get that mic on there? Sweet. So we've got 3 guests coming on next, which is why this is going to take a little bit longer. They're not here. Oh, I thought you said the contest is up for them. So Patrick is just finishing setup, and then they will come in, and we will get started here in a couple minutes. So yeah, Southern Draw is an interesting one. They've got a couple new releases. It sounds like some things that they haven't reported yet, which is that the Ignite series, I don't know why we're banging on walls, but the Ignite series is is one of those things that where some of those cigars, it sounds like, are going to be going to other retailers, to brick and mortars, and that's obviously something that's not, I don't think, been reported so far, but certainly something that for the retailers to look forward to. Patrick, can you also make sure to remind guests that if they like lean back, they will go through the walls?
Sure.
And that we don't really want to watch us try to reconstruct it live. All right, so we're about a minute away from the Quesadas joining us. I think Quesada is another interesting company to watch. We'll talk to them about why. Certainly a lot of changes going on, but still some familiar faces, including the three that we're going to have on. I think Southern Draw is a company certainly to watch, particularly to see what their retail footprint looks like, if there's still any growth to be had there in terms of adding new stores on, because it does really seem like over the last 12 months they've really, really exploded in terms of where their cigars are going. If you have more questions, I don't know if Brian Burt's just not doing a good job or if the questions aren't coming through, but there doesn't seem to be very many of them, so we certainly will appreciate them. Good on mine, Patrick. Oh, we have a surprise guest.
Hello. Am I the surprise guest?
Maybe.
Wait, oh, here we go.
Is that the prize? If you want to have them swing that around, we can throw it on a camera.
Hold on, let me go say hello to
I would stand up, but there's wires everywhere, and these
Be careful.
walls are...
Yeah, I'm being careful. I just wanted to say hello. We're on camera?
How's it going? Yeah, I'm not even going to try.
Enrique,
Yeah, I think we've met.
You
Yeah, I
met,
think
okay.
you have.
All right.
I'm Patricia, by the way.
Thank you. I just want you to know, and I don't know if Patrick's done a good job. This is all live.
Oh, I just told him that.
Yeah.
I just told
We're
him
live
that.
now?
Yeah.
Yes. I'm
Oh,
like,
dear.
yeah, I'm like, Papa, we're live.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. All right. So we have Team Quesada here. You're going to have to share the microphones. It's a good thing that we've got family members. So hopefully we got it. So why don't you guys introduce yourselves? And we have like every single female in the booth taking pictures apparently. So keep going. It's fine. All right.
Hello, I'm supposed to talk into the mic,
Yeah,
right?
so if you can
Is
pull it
it
up
good?
closer. Yeah, it's
Closer?
wireless. Yeah, you can do whatever you want.
Hello?
Yeah, there we go.
Hello?
All right, and if you want to look at that camera.
This camera,
Yeah.
thank you. So many
Or you can look at
cameras.
me, whatever one. Just don't look at those
Oh,
two.
that camera.
Yeah, this camera.
Yeah, there's
Okay,
actually a
so
fourth camera too.
I'm Patricia Quesada. This is my dad, Manolo. And I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, and then,
So my name is
hold on,
Enrique.
you got to tilt that up.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yep. So my name is Enrique Tavares, and I'm part of Quesada Cigars team.
All right, and so we've got the Quesada family here, and you guys we got products. So.
Yeah,
We do.
All right, so why don't we start? You want to start with Vega Magna?
Yeah.
All
Why
right.
not?
So,
Open it up.
yeah, and Brooks should be,
I'll do
I don't
the
know, maybe
model,
he's not.
and
All right.
Papa's gonna talk about it, and Enrique are gonna talk about it.
Well, maybe. We'll see. I don't know what camera's actually on.
Which camera?
I don't know. I still see Robert Holt here, which is concerning to me. Are we... So they're on, right? Because I see Robert Holt, which... but they're on... Okay, great. And that camera's taut? Okay.
So that's the one.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Oh, okay. We're gonna have to practice more. Okay, so we have Vega Magna. Obviously, you guys have a brand called Casa Magna, which has done very well with Cigar Aficionado's #1 cigar of the year. Beat out a $30 Padron, and was not $30. This is not made by Placencia like Casa Magna is, correct? You guys are making this,
This is
but it
Dominican
looks
made.
very much like Casa Magna.
It's family.
Yeah.
So it's a different
Do you
first
want to
name.
pick one mic and?
It's a different first name, but it's still in the family.
All right.
But these are all made in Dominican. However, not all
All right.
Dominican.
Probably don't want two mics because we might have like your booming voice might be even more booming, and you can narrate. But okay, so.
He's a good narrator.
Sorry?
He's
You narrated the Pro Cigar video, the 10th anniversary Pro Cigar video.
sir.
Yeah, that narration was really good.
Thank you, Charlie.
Yeah, if you need another job, narration,
No,
English narration might be good.
does not need another job.
All right,
We're
so
good.
so Vega Magna, and you've got a couple sizes or just one?
3 sizes, sir.
3 sizes.
3 sizes for Vega Magna.
And the idea has been to make a cigar that
You probably
brings-
want to get that mic really.
that
It's
brings
uncomfortably
all-
close.
Brings all the intensity of a cigar, but also a lot of nuances and a lot of character and a lot of different places in your palate that you can enjoy a smoke. So it has an Ecuador Havana wrapper and all Dominican fillers and binders in the blend.
All right, and so that's the new release. It's regular production.
Yes, sir.
Still pretty well priced. Maybe not as cheap as Casa Magna was back in the
it's
day.
not- no, it's not as cheap as Casa Magna. It's a little in the higher end of 2 figures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're not
It's
we're not trying to sell
in the
$35
$20
cigars.
range.
Yeah. All right. And so we've also got new boxes for. We've got boxes that we haven't really seen. These two are the first time we're seeing boxes like this, right?
Mhm.
Yep.
All right.
And it has the. Whoops.
Has a basement to it.
Oh wow.
It has a basement.
And so that was done by a Dominican
by
artist,
the
right?
Dominican
Yes,
artist
sir.
Pragmi Marichal.
Who's standing over there,
Who's
by the
standing
way?
Oh.
over there? You
Hello.
can wave at him.
We have a lot of cameras, but none pointing that way. But there is the artist is here.
He is here.
All right. And so what is the purpose? Is that like, do we hang that on the wall?
Yep,
It
it
has a
has-
hook in the
Oh,
back.
look at that. Hold on. Let's see if we can. Berkson, what camera are we on? You're on this. Can we throw the 85 on? So I can do this? No, just. On him. Once again, this is not what we do. So this is the back of it. It reminds me a lot of the Oliva Master Blends, the original one, where they purposely put a lid in a box that was made to be hung,
Yeah.
and so it slides underneath it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so a lot of people are going to think it's an ashtray, unfortunately.
And of course, each box has a different picture on it.
Yeah.
So there'll be three.
Oh.
With
Oh,
each
yeah.
vitola.
Each Vitol's got a different picture.
Yes, sir.
Exactly.
Yes, sir.
All right, awesome. And so over there, do you want to talk about Fonseca Classic?
Yeah. So this is the new Fonseca Classic.
Can we try to get it over there to that camera?
Okay. So this is the new Fonseca Classic. We're actually working with 4 vitolas on Connecticut wrapper and Dominican filler and binder.
But the blends are the same. It's just packaging.
Yeah, it's still the same, but now thanks to the last crops that were harvested in the Dominican Republic.
Practice with me. Natural variations of tobacco.
But Charlie, and just to help the thought, the last 7 or 8 crops in Dominican have been so outstanding, and there's a higher nobility and higher richness in the tobaccos coming from the land. So even though we're using the same farms and the same seeds, what the tobaccos are bringing to the blend is a new perspective of intensity, of flavors, and a lot of more complexity in the same flavors that were originally there. So the Fonseca, even though we have not changed the blend, it is a little more intense in the palate as far as presenting things that will happen in the palate.
Yeah, but it's still the same tobaccos.
Yes, sir.
You guys have the FDA lines down great. It's the same tobaccos. It just tastes a little bit differently because we've
Well-
had better crops, which is something that happens.
Yeah, exactly.
You have more rain, more sunlight, less sunlight,
Exactly.
less
Exactly.
wind, more wind, or it's
Exactly.
Cuba and you got to replant. All right, so a lot of changes at Quesada. Obviously, some familiar faces, but some faces that particularly for the American market, I think the people really knew. Obviously, they knew you, Manolo, but obviously Terrence and Hostos were pretty prominent members.
Yeah.
They've both left. There were some other people that were less prominent, particularly for consumers, that also left. You and your sister are back now. It's seemingly a lot more involved than before. Some other new faces. Have you heard those concerns from retailers that say a lot of personnel changes seemingly going on? I know retailers have had issues over the last 12 months with product shipping, the warehouse changes. I mean, you guys have had to have heard those issues, correct? Because I hear them, and
Oh, we hear them.
yeah. And what do you say?
You
Because
know what? It's normal to hear them because change brings that. But you know what? Change is part of life, and I think we all go through it at one point or another, or many times
Yeah.
during our lifetime. So we welcome those rumors and those questions, and we've always been here. We've always given our faces. We've always answered. We haven't hidden. So it's part of life. So yeah, bring it on.
I mean, was there anything specifically that you want to talk about that led to? I mean, was it just a coincidence of a whole bunch of changes that all sort of happened at once, or was there
You know what?
a big antithesis?
It might have been like fast for you guys, but this has been in the work for years.
All right.
And what happened happened, and it's in the past. And we're very proud of everything that we have done and how we have handled everything. Everybody goes through things. It's normal. It happens in families. It happens in businesses. It's normal. It's a cycle of life. And whoever says that it's not true, it's lying. So you know what? We're very happy of where we are now, and we're very excited of what's to come. And that's what we're focusing on the now. And we're very happy. We're very excited. And we're very thankful also to everyone for their concerns. We're very thankful. Like, that to us means a lot because that means that you all care. So thank you for that. Yes.
And is the shipping program, you guys were really the first major brand to sign on to this innovative shipping program where you're shipping cigars directly to source from the DR.
That's
Is
one
that
of the things.
online now, sort of fully operational and functional? Because it seemed like when the transition first started, there was some hiccups.
Well, there are still going to be hiccups. I mean, come on, let's be honest. You don't fix the Tower of Pisa like in one day. Like that doesn't happen. The important thing is that we are on top of it and that we are working very hard to make everything as smooth as possible. My dad has always taught us that mistake is part of growing up and mistake is part of life. So yeah, there's still hiccups.
Yeah, but
that
also,
happens.
Patricia and Charlie, you got to remember, we're breaking ground here.
Yeah.
Nobody had done this at the volume we're doing it. So eventually, and we knew that UPS would have certain issues with speed, condition of product, location of product, and
Delivery,
we're working with them very hard and very close to iron out those little glitches and put the system
and
to
you know
work
what I
good.
think is the most important thing is that our customer service is like top like shape. If you have any problems and you contact us, we will take care of it immediately alongside UPS. We're working very close with them. So it's like something that we are addressing, and as we go along, we fix things.
And so just because a lot of the people that are watching this are probably consumers and don't understand, so let me see if I have this process correctly. So you guys take cigars from the factory, and you give them to UPS in the Dominican Republic and a partner that they've got that specializes in shipping cigars.
Mm-hmm.
They basically clear customs and also all tax and import-related duties, and then they ship them from your factory or facility in Santiago directly to the retail stores. So they obviously go in still probably through the port of Miami or through an airport
Miami.
somewhere.
Yeah, they do Miami. Yeah.
And then, but they never go, unlike most companies where they ship on a container or they ship air freight, most companies go to a warehouse, which you guys used to have, usually in Miami
Yeah.
for the most part, and then they get inventoried there and then they get packed again. But rather than having a warehouse, you guys are shipping stuff. You guys are boxing stuff specifically for a store in California, and it's going from your place to UPS and then directly to the store as opposed to
Yes.
going somewhere into
And
a
the
warehouse.
minute it leaves our facility, you get an email with the tracking number and all the information that you need to know when that's coming in.
And really, the part that's different is it's cigars, so there's a lot more concerns about temperature and humidity, but also the taxes and the customs are all being cleared in the DR, which was something that no one was really doing before this program started a couple years ago.
Correct.
All right, so that's the program. All right, so we've gotten the awkward, maybe not so fun stuff to talk
The
about.
elephant in the room.
The elephant in the room. So last year, you guys had a cigar that we reviewed. You had a couple cigars that we reviewed. One of them won our Cigar of the Year.
Yes, it did.
It's probably a cigar that you probably didn't necessarily see coming. When you sort of describe it like, it's going to be a barber pole store exclusive that I don't think many other people really smoked or certainly smoked but not reviewed. But it won. So for the last few years, we've been trying to work on something to commemorate that with, and we finally found someone in Georgia who was able to create this. Sorry, I forget that I can't. I got to talk into the microphone. So for the first time, you guys are going to have the first one. I keep doing this. It's very confusing. We have a trophy to commemorate it. I know exactly where it's going to go in the factory because you have a nice little wall where all this stuff goes. It's a bit different than I think every other one, so let me grab it. The right one. So here is
That's awesome.
Half-Wheel Cigar of the Year trophy.
Ooh.
Congratulations.
Wow.
That's awesome.
This is amazing.
Thank
you so much.
We've been working on it, I said, for a few years now. We tried to find something that was different. We didn't want it to be
beautiful.
anything else. So yeah, we were originally going to do it out of wood, but we found someone that said, why not do it out of metal? And so
It's signed.
It is.
You guys.
oh, you guys got the really bad signature for Brooks. Brooks and paint pens are not friends. It's all over this table, by the way. But no,
The
yeah, we
important
signed
thing
it
is
for
we
you.
have it.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank
This is
you.
beautiful.
This is amazing.
Yes.
What
and
an
don't
honor.
put it in your booth 'cause
Thank you.
Someone will steal it. I don't know why. They'll be like, oh, like I wanted a trophy. Like,
No, we're gonna put it in the display case.
yeah, put it in the case, but don't leave it out because someone at this trade show,
That
someone
is
will take
beautiful.
it.
Truly, thank you.
No, and
Taking
congratulations.
it back to the factory.
All right, so now the next awkward question: when are more Reserva Ferrada, Barber Pole, Corona Gorda shipping?
They're going out.
Reserva privado, yeah, they're shipping.
They're shipping
The Corona Gordas or the other sizes?
everything.
Yeah, exactly.
And are they just going to Fine Ash, or because this was a exclusive
No,
cigar?
Fine Ash was one size and done.
But so that size done. But
Yeah.
that's the
That's
size that
done.
won.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that one's done. There's no more.
So ask us to make more.
It's not my job, Dad. It's Fine Ash's job.
Yeah, but Fine Ash, we're already finished with them.
Yeah, but I don't have a retail store.
But
What
you
am I
have-
going to do?
You
with
have,
them?
you have people that smoke.
I have people that
Do you
smoke.
have a suggestion? Like I see it in your eyes.
My suggestion would be, I think that this is, there's every year there's a couple cigars that are private labels that are limited editions that sell out pretty quickly, or that are things that people don't hear about that we review highly. It's the first time that anyone's ever gotten this high, and particularly, Fine Ash is not extremely notable for having a whole bunch of exclusives. They've done a lot with you, but they're in Arizona, they're not in Florida or New York or Texas. Yeah, my suggestion would be to make more for, assuming they want them, and I assume that Sam wants more. Make more of them. They're a great cigar.
Okay, Sam. Let's talk soon.
Yeah, I'm sure Sam's, if he's not driving here, I'm sure Sam's probably watching. He's been tuning into these. But yes.
Okay, noted.
Okay, so we have some questions from the audience, I think. Why is it telling me, Brian, Quesada question? Sorry. Yeah, no, that question. David Richard Williams asked why, going back to the awkward shipping question, why use UPS and not USPS, FedEx, or DHL? I think I can probably handle this. So, for one, FedEx won't ship cigars. DHL does not have a great distribution network in the U.S. and is very expensive unless you're shipping usually from China or Europe, in which case they're competitive, but not from. I mean, they have probably a better operation in the DR than they do here, but they tried to go here and they failed miserably. And then USPS obviously would it be all partner-based shipping, not a great way to get cigars from the DR to here.
Exactly.
So UPS is sort of the only option.
Yeah, they were actually the ones who built the operation system for the cigar industry in the Dominican Republic, so that's why.
All right. Any questions for me? I know Patrick's supposed to be prompting people to ask me questions. Nope.
Did you change your hair?
I did. I cut like a foot of it off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just noticed.
Yeah,
When-
it was a lot.
When are we dancing again?
We're not. I danced my one merengue contest.
And we lost.
We have
to
third place?
practice.
No, you and I both have to practice. I think is the short.
That's right. We have to
For a
practice.
Dominican, your knowledge of merengue is not
It was
great.
pretty spot on,
I
right?
can't dance. I know I can't dance. I don't know what a merengue to this day looks like. But you're Dominican. Like I thought.
That was fun though. We got third place.
we
That's
did
not
get
bad.
third place. We got third place. I think out of a pity vote, or to try to continue to embarrass the two of us. Jose Blanco was having a lot of fun that night. But no, I am done. I did my one merengue contest. It's now up. Patrick hasn't done one. When he goes back to Pearce Cigar, maybe he can do it.
Father Mac, let's have both of you do it.
No. I did mine. I did my merengue contest.
Yeah, but you can come back for
Have you been in the
It's-
merengue
it's
contest?
off your
Hey,
bucket
encore,
list.
Encore.
Have
Come
you
on
been in the
back.
merengue contest?
Me? No,
Yeah.
I'm too old for this.
He's good at merengue though.
Yeah.
He dances really well.
What I need to do is I need to disguise myself as Latin, and that way I'll get thrown out of the merengue contest. Because there's a lot of racial profiling that Jose Blanco does with that merengue. He's like, okay, you look Latin, you're from Hialeah, yeah, you're done.
Yeah, you're done. Move. That's true. Maybe. Who knows?
Yes. All right. I think that that is our time. We're trying to stay on schedule. Thank you guys for stopping by.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you for
us.
answering all of our
Patrick.
questions.
The Avega Magna for
No, it's an empty box of Vega Magna per FTA rules. All right, so we'll have
Yeah.
someone take possession of the
Yeah,
empty
this is
box.
For the, yeah.
Yeah.
And Brooks, I don't know where he went, but maybe there's a contest winner. Hopefully there is. We'll
Well,
figure it out.
This is
Okay,
it.
let us
Yeah,
know.
if you can hand it to Brian in the blue shirt.
Awesome.
Thank you guys for stopping by. I look
Thank
forward to
you.
seeing you. Have a good trade show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy
Wait,
the air
wait,
conditioning or lack thereof.
Oh, like I have a fan.
I know it doesn't help. We have fans too.
I
And that
know.
one, I don't even know where it's pointed.
Yeah, it's there.
All right. Thank you,
Well,
Manolo.
thank you,
Thank you, guys.
Papa.
Do we have a contest winner? Or your keys on it? You type in whatever on the general stuff. Thank you. Patrick, is Brian aware of what he needs to do with these chairs, or is someone else doing it? Yeah, I got that. So we're good with that. Okay. Does Brian know what he needs to do over here, though? All right, sweet. And Patrick, you may need. I don't know how we're going to be able to tell which microphone's which, because I don't know if they kept them in the same place. Two for the next one. Oh. Who is next? Okay, who else is here? Does he have a name tag? Who is the other guest? All right. We got more surprises coming. All right, so Hoya de Nicaragua is going to be our next guest in about 3 minutes. Hoya de Nicaragua, like many companies this year, are celebrating their anniversary. They're celebrating their 50th anniversary, which happens to be a pretty common occurrence here. So we have Hoya celebrating 50. We have Macanudo. They've got their 50th anniversary. We've got Davidoff has the 50th anniversary of the Davidoff brand as a cigar brand, not necessarily as a company. We've got Villiger, I believe, is celebrating 170, 140 years, 130 years, sorry, not 170. Am I missing other anniversaries, Patrick? We got Hoya, Macanudo, Davidoff are all at 50. Villiger's got 130. Pete's got 15. There's more. Calibri's 90. There's another big one, though, that I'm missing. Oh, well, we have the attempt at Liga Privada. It's not really. Liga Privada is celebrating their 10th anniversary. What is the 3? 3 minutes to what? Oh, it's 2 minutes. Sorry. Once again, we got to practice this more often. But we're trying to. Yeah, so Liga Privada is releasing a cigar for their 10th anniversary. It's really not. That was last year. So it's Liga Privada is really not 10 years old. That's a confusing math game. And then Patrick mentioned Daniel Marshall, but they actually were 35 years. I can't see what you're saying, Patrick. Daniel Marshall celebrating 35 years last year, but they have a new humidor out for it. All right. Patrick is typing to me. We have... Sorry, give me 1 second. Patrick. Patrick, can you get back to your computer? Sorry. We have the Martínez family is here. Just dealing with some last-minute logistics. Brian, are we good with the lights? The lights do? What happens if you take the battery out? Try it with that one before they go on. But I bet they're, as long as it's plugged in, it should stay on. Sorry? Yeah. Oh, yeah, but just do it in transitions, and we should be good. All right, so our next guests are here. Patrick's going to give me an answer. Thumbs up, thumbs down, Patrick? Okay. So, Patrick Brooks, are we good? All right, so we're going to welcome to the set one planned guest, and that is Juan Ignacio Martínez, who is the executive president of Hoya de Nicaragua. I believe we have the title. And we have a surprise, an unplanned guest. We have the man himself, Dr. Alejandro Martínez Cuenca, the chairman? The man. The man.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you for stopping by.
Charlie?
So if you want to get the microphones uncomfortably, it's really weird. You got to get used to it, but uncomfortably close to your mouth.
Like a radio show?
Yeah, but when you go back and watch it, it sounds so much better. It's crazy.
Okay.
Welcome to our nice air-conditioned room.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah, no, we're next year we're just going to do it outside. It'll be cooler.
It would be better, man.
It would be cooler. And
Or like
without
casino
walls,
floor
there'll be a
or
little bit of
something.
breeze.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do it at the Westgate. We can all get sick.
Yeah.
So, it's an anniversary year. You guys are one of many celebrating 50 years. A bit different than the other companies, though, because you guys are celebrating 50 years of not just the Hoya de Nicaragua brand, but the factory, which is the oldest factory in Nicaragua, and still going, with an original wall at one end of the building. And you got 2 cigars to pay tribute to that, a couple cigars, but really 2 that are mainly focused on the 50th anniversary. And so do you want to talk a little bit about how those came about? And maybe so that way I can fill out my IPCPR post. If you want to tell me what the filler is, be great.
Well, let me start out by thanking you for
No, it's our pleasure.
welcoming me in this program and thanking everybody who's watching. Today is a very important day for us because we are launching the Cinco Décadas, which is our cigar, which is in commemoration of the 50th anniversary of Hoya de Nicaragua. But more than that, I think what we are celebrating is the 50 years of leadership, resilience of the people of Esteli, the 50 years of being the pioneer in the industry, having been the first manufacturing operation opening up doors in Nicaragua, and 50 years after, seeing the country and seeing our tobaccos in the top of all the rankings that we've been watching along so many years. So we're very happy to talk about Cinco Décadas, which is, as I said, in 2 sizes only, and hope that people, when they smoke it, they will celebrate what we celebrate in the 50 years of the industry of premium cigars in Nicaragua.
So you have one of the sizes here. That's El General.
Yeah.
And then the other size is a diadema.
Yes.
But it's a pretty weird-looking diadema. It's not a cigar,
Yes.
a shape that we see very often. It's quite round for a diadema.
Yes.
And it's more symmetrical, I guess.
Well,
I don't want to say it looks like an egg, but it's a bit rounder than a typical diadema.
It's shorter than the typical diadema. The 2 sizes are inspired by the most popular sizes produced at the beginning. So we went back to our people. You probably heard of Panchita, who is one of our oldest workers, and she's the head of quality control. She has a photographic memory. So we went to her and said, please tell us a little bit of when you began, how it was. And these were the shapes and sizes of the cigars that she described. And we wanted to recover those sizes. So we call it a diadema, basically 2-sided figurado, shorter, a little bit thicker too. But indeed, it's not like the typical rounded diadema that you see happening out there. It's how they called it back then too. So.
And so did you have that mold lying around, or?
No, we had to redo the mold, inspired by the original one.
And so did you guys custom make that, or did someone else have a mold?
No, custom made. It's a custom made mold, yeah.
And so was that size, was it a size that you actually used, or is it a inspired by size?
No, it's inspired by the original size. That's
probably
how
a little bit bigger?
Probably, I would say instead of bigger, it would probably thinner. Instead of less, the smaller ring gauge, probably.
That's interesting.
But that was sort of the intention to recover that. We also did a little bit of getting inspired with what would be interesting today, type of format. So that's where that came out.
And so those are the first 2 sizes.
Yeah.
There's more sizes
Yeah.
eventually coming down the road.
Yes.
And I know that you guys are not disclosing the filler blend, or the blend really, but
well,
probably a lot in Nicaragua.
Let me say it.
Yeah.
Let me say it myself.
All right.
What I guarantee you that when we decided this project, we put the best tobaccos that the factory has ever worked, and obviously that's the most important part. I guarantee that the tobaccos there, will resonate on you, and that's the idea.
So when
just let me tell you, the reason why we're not disclosing the blend, or we're not openly saying, it's not because it's a big mystery. It's mostly Nicaraguan tobacco. It's all Nicaraguan tobacco. I don't know. But we didn't want to go into the detail of the distraction, because we wanted to create the conception of the brand is special by itself, for what it is, for what it represents, instead of judging by its components. For that, we have other cigars. We have silver, we have black, and we can talk about the details of the components or the ingredients of that of those blends. But in Cinco Décadas, it's about the product itself, the completeness of the product itself. So we didn't feel it was necessary, and we wanted to also break with the tradition of disclosing everything.
No, I
you love that, so we wanted to bust your balls with that.
Yeah, I know. It keeps me motivated. All right, so when you start that project, so you guys have special tobaccos, and you say, is it something like you guys started working with these tobaccos a few years ago and said, we want to use these for 50th, or we want to use these for 45, but they needed more time, and so now they're on the 50th, but when you guys say, okay, this is going to be a tobacco we really want to use, is it like we're going to use all of our special tobaccos, or we're going to start with the one that we really want to use and then work around it?
Well, this goes back a few years ago when we began this relaunch of the different blends of Joya, and we started deciding how to not only purchase but distribute our tobaccos. This I'm talking about 7 or 8 years ago. we started selecting better and classifying better tobaccos, and that's when we started choosing how to classify those. And when we say special tobaccos, is because literally they have been selected, marked, and separated from the rest of tobaccos. So we have a special space in our warehouses where we have what we call, our guys mark them AAA and XXX tobaccos, depending on the.
One is very graphic, apparently.
Yes, that's why we call them especially AAA, so that we don't. But we specially select those so that we save them depending on the crop, depending on how we've used them in the past, and how we know that they react and smoke, and what they've done best for the profiles.
So really, these are tobaccos, individual tobacco components that you guys are using in other blends, but this is just the best of the best.
Exactly.
That might have more aging or might have different aging, and was selected because of the quality of the individual leaves.
Exactly. It's not a special.
So it's not like you went out and like.
No, it's not a
spend
different
time in the
seed
seed room.
No. It's not a unique seed. It's not a hybrid or any other thing. It's just of all the tobaccos that you already know, that we already use, the special age and the special selection of those best tobaccos. Yes.
All right. So you've had the factory now for 50 years. Well, not you, but the factory's been around for 50 years.
That is correct.
The obvious answer to this question is just the crazy amount of cigars and manufacturers and how Esteli's grown. But what else? I mean, and you are obviously someone, Dr. Cuenca, who's been in Nicaragua and has a lot of businesses in Nicaragua, has a very interesting viewpoint. But what has been the most surprising thing for you since when you bought the company, outside of the craziness of how Nicaragua or how Esteli is now with cigars? But what has been the other moment in terms of craziness that you could never have seen coming when you bought the factory, where now when you say, okay, the factory turns 50 in 2018, I never would have seen fill in the blank coming, besides just the absolute bonanza that is making cigars in Esteli?
Well, improvising a quick answer to your question would be the boom itself was a surprise for me. In my calculations of deciding to go for cigars and buying Joya de Nicaragua, to be honest, I did not think that there would be a boom. Obviously, that was the blessing that we received, because the boom allowed us to really put more energy into the rebuilding of Joya de Nicaragua back in 1994 and 1995. So I would say the boom took me by surprise. Probably it's logical. You know, I wasn't really in the business before that except enjoying cigars. So it was more a human decision how to help those workers of Esteli who were at that moment in a very difficult situation, and they searched for me, looked for me, wanted me to do something for them. And first we tried, as you know the history, we tried to look for other investors that would come and buy the company. Then when everything ran out, I was left with the decision. Either you take it or you take it. There's no other decision, you know. So the surprise that it gave me when I saw the boom, I saw it was a blessing at that moment. You know, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly an interesting one. It's interesting to think about what all the other possible answers could have been. I mean, to think about Nicaragua is a country, you know, obviously you say cigars and embargo, everyone thinks about Cuba, but Nicaragua was embargoed. You know, certainly in previous times, and Joya de Nicaragua felt that. It caused certainly the course of Joya's history to change in many ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy. The boom is something. I'd be fascinated to see some of your friends with economics degrees write a book about the boom, about just, you know, there's obviously some explanations, maybe what the spark was, but the effects of the boom. And I think we still see it. We see a lot of retailers that probably would have failed had the boom not, that are still here today and maybe not doing a great job, but are sort of lingering on the way that they just sort of stumbled into a great cigar business in America in 1993, 1994, 1995, and were able to make a ton of money early on and are now just sort of hanging on. And all the retailers that couldn't keep up, and all the manufacturers that couldn't keep up, and all the manufacturers that did, because there are some big brands that certainly made their name in the boom.
You have those stories of the guys who came in to the industry as a result of the boom or in the boom, and that have transformed the way we see, we enjoy, we smoke cigars.
No, I mean, but for every Drew estate, there's 25 Mayorgas.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
exactly.
it's crazy. All right, so on the Drew estate topic, you guys are now part of the tin program. There's some Joya brands going into tins. Easy decision, tough decision. Obviously, Drew estate's your valued partner, but not a lot of people. I mean, other people make tins. Perdomo, I guess, makes tins, but no one's really making the investment in tins like Drew estate is.
Yeah. Well, these discussions we've been having for a few years now, especially because some of our European customers have demanded that we have a format like that. Obviously, we don't have the machinery, the capabilities to do so, and since day one, when they decided to start, this project, we were in the pipeline. When Cellucci back then, with Jonathan, decided to bring the machines down to Nicaragua, and they started testing. We were already in conversations with that. So last year they introduced the first batch. We were in the pipeline to come together in this project. Of course, it's difficult because moving from the premium to the machine made, it's not an easy
particularly
decision.
with premium brands. It's not like you're creating new brands. Joya machine. It's different. It's your actual premium brands.
Yeah, but I think it's the best decision because. If we had done it by ourselves, would have gone to someone else to probably manufacture the cigars. With them, we have the distribution guaranteed. Not only the distribution, but also the marketing muscle. The water tank concept has been very, very impactful at the retail level, and we're part of that collective. So it's a good way to start getting into that business. Hopefully in the future, either we can extend the brands or we can extend the shapes and formats of the machine mates.
All right, we have a reader question, but I have one last question before. What's the craziest idea that Drew Estate's ever brought to you?
That's
like, is it KFC? Like, hey, we're gonna have this project. We're gonna take a whole bunch of tobaccos that no one's really uses in premium cigars. They're different. They smell weird. They're from a place that no one really uses tobaccos from. And we want you to roll them.
And I want you, and I would say probably that was
we're going to call it My Uzi Weighs a Ton. Yeah.
That was a big challenge. Well, we were not used to, working with some kind of tobaccos that gave particular taste that we were not used to. So I would say the most strange thing was starting out there with the KFC.
But it followed up after Muad, My Uzi Weighs a Ton. I don't know if anybody knows this, but the original blend of Muad was something like the Kentucky Fire Cube, but didn't go. So Kentucky Fire Muad was the result of one of the first Cigar Safari projects of blending. It was a completely radical project for us.
Cigar Safari's got to be another one. Like, they come to you and say, like, hey, we're going to build, like, a hotel, essentially.
Cigar Safari ended up being visionary,
Yeah, but that, like, you guys are obviously, you're from Nicaragua. Like, Nicaragua's got tourism industry, just not in northern central Nicaragua. Like, you go to the coast, you go surfing, you go on a yoga retreat. But even back then, it's a little bit different than where it is now or where it was. But, like, they say, we're going to build an art studio and a tattoo shop and a Walmart across the street, which never came, and a house or a hotel, essentially. And we're going to have people come down on cigar tourism. And obviously you have Camp Camacho in Honduras, but that's Camp Camacho, like, it's working. And, like, Drew Estate's factory's in a weird place in Esther. Like, that's got to be a pretty crazy one. Like,
it was. The first time we came to Cigar Safari was not only impactful, it was like...
Because when does Cigar Safari start?
I think it's 2008. It was starting our relationship. That was first.
It not only is it,
a year after.
Yeah, 2008 or 2009.
2009, I think.
Yeah.
So 2009 would be a bit easier, but 2008 would be tough because, they're obviously planning it in 08 or even before that, because, like, the other part of this is that Drew Estate's a company that's basically only had success selling flavored cigars. Like, Liga has just started to come out. We're having this trade show is the recreation history of when Liga Privada debuted, not according to FDA, but for their 10th anniversary. But that's got to be crazy. We have an interesting question. We have a couple questions, but one in particular that I want to get to before you guys leave. Anthony says, I love the natural tobacco sweetness in Joya Red and in Rosalones. Which tobacco provides the awesome flavor profile, and is it a house Joya de Nicaragua profile?
answer you.
Okay, so I would say the overall Nicaraguan tobacco is well known because of its flavor, you know, but mostly the tobacco from Esteli. The quality of the soil in Esteli, the thickness, the richness, mineral content, and nutrient allows for a tobacco that tends to be very rich, not only in flavor, also in nicotine. So that's the tobacco that gives you the punch. Most of our cigars contain some form or some leaf of tobacco from Esteli. Particularly the Antaños contain mostly tobacco from Esteli. And that gives a combination of sweetness, a combination of earthiness, but mostly a combination of punch to it.
All right. Well, thank you for stopping by. Thank you, Juan, for taking the time. Dr. Cuenca, it's been a pleasant surprise.
Well,
it's always
for
great to
him
see
too.
you. And we saw your wife as well.
Yeah,
She
she's
stopped by
great.
for a second. Enjoy setup in the sales meeting. I
Thank
know
you
that's
very
coming
much.
up later today.
We appreciate that.
I look forward to. I'm a huge fan of the diadema size, even in your somewhat non-traditional diademas.
yeah.
So I'm fascinated to see what that tastes like. And really, it's one of the cigars I'm looking forward to
Hopefully
smoking.
you smoke it not today or during the show.
No, I rarely smoke cigars. It is quite usual. We'll see this year because we have this room that we can smoke in. Last year we couldn't smoke in our room, but it's pretty typical for me to basically on the show floor to smoke about. I guess in the mornings we have these Facebook Live things. I smoke during
Yeah.
that. But other than that, I generally only smoke about a cigar the entire 4 days.
Yeah.
Usually at the end of day 4, I'll light a cigar on the show floor for the first time because you walk around with a camera and a notepad and a monopod and microphones, and then I don't know where
You
the
guys
cigar
should do a
goes.
special about that, of how the first impression that happens here at the show, in the context of the show and in the context of Vegas weather, affects actually what you end up happening. Man.
I think the show thing is always interesting because I've always said that cigars, like the cigars that make or break, that are made or broken at a trade show, it always happens in the first hour. Like, it's not necessarily about like what they're going to do later on, but the perception in the trade show. Because what happens is someone goes to a booth and a retailer goes and they smoke a cigar, and another retailer's there, they smoke that same cigar, and maybe there's a blogger or media person there, and all it takes is about 4 people to say, "Oh, that was great." Because what happens, I mean, you guys see it. Every single retailer that stops by a booth, you always go, "Oh, what have you smoked that's good?" Because you guys aren't smoking other people's cigars for the most part. You may smoke 1 or 2. And no one really can taste anything. The room's full of smoke. It's terrible smoking conditions.
Yeah.
You haven't smoked that many cigars, and if you have, you've smoked 10 minutes of it. And people are like, "Oh, yeah, I smoked that, and it was great." And it's interesting because it goes both ways. There's cigars like when Jose Seas came back, the second year, it was like, "Oh, the rave was about Matilde." And it happened because in the first hour, 6 people smoked it and told everyone else about it. But it goes the other way because, and I know you guys will not show your faces for this, but Padron Damaso, which is a cigar I think that, manufacturers are not going to say this publicly because it's Padron and they're very well respected, but I don't think it's done as well as Padron wanted to or anyone expected it was going to do. It was dead on arrival or whatever you want to call it, the first hour of the show. And I remember distinctly sitting against a rafter in the New Orleans, I think it was in New Orleans, and typing up an article, and a big Padron retailer that's in Dallas walked by and was smoking Damaso, and I said, "How is it?" And he goes, it's just not what I was hoping for. I don't think it's going to work. And all it took was 5 or 6 of those guys, and they went around, and midway through day 1, I'm sure it got back to you because this industry loves to talk. People are saying this is good, this is bad, this is good, this is bad, and it's crazy.
It's an unfair. It's
a terrible assessment. You couldn't pick. I mean, outside of going like the only way you could possibly make it worse is if you take that cigar and go to the swimming pool and smoke it in the swimming pool. That would be the only possible way. Besides a lot of alcohol consumption, that you could make that cigar taste worse. Anyway, we've taken up a little bit more of your time than intended.
We have a giveaway though. You asked for, but
yeah.
I didn't bring it because
Do you want
still
to?
setting up.
I think we probably have a winner already.
You have a winner?
We have a winner already.
Okay. So we're giving out a box of Joya Silver.
No, you're giving out a sticker, a Joya Silver sticker.
Okay.
But did none of these FDA attorneys tell you about this?
Oh shit.
No. So the way this works is, you could give a business.
Sticker, yes.
You give a business a box of cigars, or some cigars to sample. But
we come from Nicaragua, man.
Yeah, I know.
We're not U.S. citizens, so by the way.
It's like, hey, Drew State attorneys. Yeah, it's Nicaraguan rules. All right, but anyway, there's a Joya Silver sticker with an empty box going
Coming
to someone.
somewhere, yeah. It's a beautiful sticker. It's shiny.
No, the packaging looks great. I'm sorry we didn't get to talk about it. You guys have a lot of new stuff. I
Don't
know
worry,
Brooks will
man.
look
see you
forward to
later.
stopping by, and I certainly look forward to stopping by and maybe having a diadema sticker.
Okay.
You'll have one.
If they're here.
We'll be seeing you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Take care, man. Thanks, guys.
And tell them to turn the air conditioning on.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any. I don't have enough sway to tell them to do that, apparently.
We don't pay for the bills here, so.
See you, Charles.
Dr. Cuenca, I can't reach it. There's too many wires. That was awkward. Thank you. I see that. Oh, okay, great. No, give me 1 second. I gotta wipe my forehead off. This is something I never thought I'd be. I saw that, Brian. Sorry, that was not the most pleasant image I saw. Is there, are there like Milano cookies somewhere around here that I bought?
Yes, they're probably melted by now.
Can you like throw a bag?
All right, I got it.
All right, if you wanna send in our next guest.
No, we gotta change the cameras.
I'm gonna change on that camera. That's not. Yeah, I mentioned that earlier. That was gonna happen.
Welcome to live TV.
Yeah. Don't clap. Not the black boxes, the lights. No. I just. Okay, so that's dying.
Black boxes are dying too.
Great. All right. Don Conger, the VP of Operations, is sitting out and smirking. If you are a manufacturer waiting on something in your booth like air conditioning, I will gladly forward the complaints over. So Brian, Burt, and Brooks Whittington are trying to wire up some things that are dying because of overheating issues. Are we good with that, Brian? This side's good? Okay. So can I... Brian, can you not do that now? Unless, is that light going to die in the next 15 minutes? The camera's not going to die. The black box on it. Okay. Can you get that, though, Brooks? Whatever's going on with that thing. It needs to be plugged into USB. Because what I'm suggesting to you guys is that we have buffer time after this, but these guys are supposed to be on 4 minutes ago. So unless it's going to die in the next 15 minutes, I'd like to get them on, and then we can do it during Patrick and Brian's time.
Okay, you got it.
So is that going to die in the next 15 minutes?
We have 16% on this camera. This has got 1 bar, so.
Plug that in. Plug in the black box. Okay. Does the camera probably doesn't have 16%. It has 16% on one battery.
Correct. But we can change that.
And you can change that out. Brian, Burt, what did you do? No, I don't. You can deal with that later. I plug in the... Get the Sling Studio plugged in, please. Why can't you... All right, get those guests. And then you can swap those camera batteries out while they're talking at one point. Just don't throw it on me, obviously. Can we get the guests in? Yeah. Welcome to live. Hold on, we have 3 guests or 2? I can't get up. So, Brian, can you hold on 1 second, Scott. All right. Who do I have to talk to get air conditioning at this trade show?
That's a great question. I'm going to say whatever deity you believe controls the weather.
Deity Dawn.
She's useless when it comes to air conditioning. All right. Rachel, we may have to have you put that laptop down shortly because the one problem you can, if you need to do something, but the camera will autofocus on the laptop and not your faces.
Okay.
Which may not be good. So if you can just put that below you, or you leave them like that, that'd be great. Or you could put it over Daniel's face, and we don't have to see that. All right. So we have 3 guests, more than what we were anticipating. If you guys want to introduce yourselves, and if you can talk uncomfortably close to the microphones,
sure.
That's very helpful for the people at home watching.
Sure. My name is Scott Pearce. I'm the executive director of the IPCPR. And so today I brought with me, because I think it might be of interest to your viewers out there, those that know the legislative things that are going on. So it might be of interest so I can have them talk to it as well, so which is why I brought some company with me. So with that, I will turn it over to Rachel.
Hi, my name is Rachel Hyde. I handle state affairs for IPCPR.
Hi, Charlie.
You can tilt it up.
I'm Daniel Trope. I'm the Senior Director of Federal Government Affairs for IPCPR.
All right. So, Scott, you are relatively new to IPCPR.
Yeah, about 2 months.
Rachel, I guess you are the longest tenured employee of the three.
It's my 5th trade show.
Yeah. And you've been 2 or 3 years now?
Year and a half.
Oh, wow. It really is going by slowly. All right. So why don't we start with the legislative affairs stuff, and then, Scott, we can get to your stuff. So federally, pretty good week a couple weeks ago, lawsuit-wise. We got the D.C. court, which previously ruled against us. When it came to an appeal, they agreed to, very quick terms, to delay the warning labels. And they've delayed them 60 days until after a different D.C. court can rule on our appeal. I assume we still don't want to talk about when we think that may or may not happen. And we should also preface it by saying that every date with this court case pretty much has also not gone to plan.
That's correct. I don't think anything
legally
or just in the whole regulatory process has gone as anybody really would have predicted, honestly, at this point throughout this whole interaction with FDA. But I will say, I've heard a statistic that on average the appeals process can go somewhere 14 months plus, anywhere up to almost 2 years. So we could be looking at well into 2020. But that is a rough estimate, and it could be much sooner. And I would not urge anybody to bank on 2020, 2021. Just be prepared.
All right, but in short, we're expecting a pretty long reprieve, all things considered, for this process before warning labels are, barring a weird court decision, before we expect to see warning labels back on boxes, or on boxes, I guess.
Right. I would say it's going to be much longer than August 10th. And it's not going to be anything very immediate, but again, not to take anything for granted.
And so, on a different federal note, obviously it's all been about lawsuits of late. There's 2 of them, but there's still action in Congress that you guys are still obviously working on. And then it seems like of late a very large push to get the various members of Congress that have supported us in both sides, in both houses, to write letters to either FDA or OMB trying to get either delays or to get different rules and things like that. And it seems like there's been a very renewed push on that front as opposed to the last couple years where it comes and goes.
Yeah, well, obviously, as we got closer and closer to the August 10th deadline, there was a huge push to have members of both the House and Senate to urge the FDA to delay the warning deadline. With that now rectified, at least short term, by the court, we are recognizing that there's what's called an advance notice proposed rulemaking. In short, the FDA is going through a regulatory review process as to how they treat premium cigars and how they define them.
Well, they could be.
The ANPRM, that's a good point. The ANPRM is the first step of a process that doesn't necessarily have to have a second step. But the idea is if you get past the first step, you use your political capital and your political supporters, hopefully, to convince the FDA that they should take a certain course of action. And I think that's why you're seeing an uptick in communications from supporters in Capitol Hill in a higher frequency than you have in the past, because we do have this deadline coming up, and a need for the agency to understand the immediacy and the urgency of finding some sort of resolution to this ongoing issue.
Obviously it's a new administration, and so there's not a ton of data on them, and a lot of the data from the Obama administration, given the stark regulatory differences between, not just with tobacco, but on pretty much everything between the two. Does anyone have a guess about, I know it's D.C., so everyone's got an opinion. It may not be correct, but they'll charge you for it. What's the guess between successful ANPRMs that actually lead to legitimate regulatory change in one way or another?
Well, first of all, I've made a whole career out of giving incorrect opinions. But
you and the last guy.
Yeah. Well, I would say that we've seen a strong deregulatory, anti-regulatory streak out of this administration in any number of issues. And you could even have said that you would have thought this process would have moved quicker for us. But I also urge your viewers to understand that this is still tobacco, and when it comes to tobacco, the federal government's regulatory process moves very slow for any number of factors. But I think we're going to see changes at the end of this process. What that will look like remains very much up in the air, but changes in the way that premium cigars are treated, and it's regulated from the retail, manufacturer, distributor level all around.
All right. So moving on to the state side, states are very different, obviously, but there's a couple of common issues that at least Patrick and I seem to be reporting on quite frequently. So, age restrictions, bumping the minimum purchase age to 18 to 21, or some states have 19 to 21.
Right.
Obviously, we have tax issues constantly. We've had a couple statewide smoking bans, but really not that many that have gotten very seriously. And then obviously there's the internet tax issue, which we'll sort of leave alone because that's probably a whole separate Facebook Live show. Where would you rank the three, Rachel, as far as most concerning or most active areas of fighting? Because obviously the tax is probably the most concerning part, barring not smoking in cigar shops, which really is not on a state level really ever proposed. But so where would you rank it in terms of where you're having to spend effort between age restrictions, taxes, and statewide larger smoking bans?
Sure. So this year we've had some pretty serious tax increase proposals, mostly in the Northeast, and that's where we've spent, where I've spent most of my time. Several proposals to increase tax caps and things like that. So I would say, that tied with removal of any kind of exemption for our members, those would be the top two. And then about 30% of the bills that we've tracked this year have been 18 to 21. And those are the ones that have had the most success and the most legs.
But also an area where, from the anti-tobacco side, there's the most fertile ground because there's only, still 7 states that have it, and
so
a few years ago there was 2.
Yeah, so there's 5 that have it now, and then I think 3 states that are at 19. So we expect 2 more states to be added to that list this year. Illinois, the bill already passed the House and Senate and is in the 60-day window where the governor either signs the bill or the governor... if he doesn't sign it within the 60-day period, it goes into law automatically. And in Massachusetts, it's passed 1 body and is pending. And
also, half the state, more or less, thanks to 3 pediatricians, has locally done it.
In Massachusetts, they've already, on the local level, had many localities pass 18 to 21. So it's already gained a lot of traction. So those are the 2 states this year where we'll see something negative go into effect. But thankfully, the tax increases on premium cigars we've been able to keep those at bay for the most part.
Is it safe to say that there's more or less deference from the IPCPR and the age restrictions because Big Tobacco obviously has a lot more money and is also seemingly a lot more interested in fighting those because for their consumer base, it's a lot more important for 18 and 19-year-olds to be smoking than for our consumer base, despite what I may or may not look like according to a bar in Las Vegas. Is it safe to say that it's sort of hands-off of Big Tobacco's going to do whatever they're going to do? If someone's going to drop some money on this issue, it's going to be the bigger players, and we need to focus our efforts on taxes and making sure you can smoke in cigar shops and cigar bars and things like that.
So we haven't taken an official position on it. We really approach it on a state-by-state basis. If we have intel that it's going to pass no matter what we do, we're not going to put our resources to fight it, but we do oppose 18 to 21 in some states. So it really is...
So no more trips to Boston is the short of this.
Not this year.
Maybe you may have to go, though, because I believe at some point smoking in cigar shops, there's only 1 left in the city of Boston proper, but at some point it becomes illegal. They keep delaying it. No grandfather, no nothing.
We unfortunately have seen lots of issues like that on the local level that can be, as you know, can be really hard to monitor, especially in a state like Massachusetts where the Department of Health is able to regulate
without
mostly
having
everything.
To get approval.
Without, exactly, they sometimes you find out about them very late and that sort of thing. But we have a partnership with NATO that's great, and we do as much.
Not the North American Trade Organization, just to be very clear about that.
No, we have an agreement with NATO, and we work with them on local reporting, and that's been a good relationship. And we've tried to increase what we let our members know on the local level over the past few years because it is very important.
All right, Scott.
Yes, sir.
You are relatively new.
Yeah, a whopping 65, 70 days.
And I think you've been, at least in another interview I read, it seemingly was pretty open about you were brought in not necessarily to run the trade show or to fix necessary problems specifically surrounding the trade show, which I think is safe to say what Mark Purcell was brought in the last, not exact titles, but essentially the same job.
Sure.
Not necessarily brought in to necessarily deal with legislative stuff, but really to bring in to help the organization with its members, and then also seemingly with the structure and this weird relationship between the office in D.C. and the executive board, and then the rest of the retail and obviously the associate members.
Yeah.
Is that a fair characterization of why you're sitting in this unconditioned room?
Yeah, I think more or less. I think when they were taking a look at it, as it was explained to me when the recruiting firm found me, they said that they were looking for somebody with the kind of background I had, which has been, by and large, roughly 20 years within association management, but within the roles I've had, has been within marketing, business development, and obviously growing membership bases and growing different related programs. And when they looked at the staff, they recognized that we had obviously expertise on staff that knew the legislative stuff. And then obviously Dawn's been running this trade show with Christine and others now for 6 years. So it was kind of like, okay, well, why would we duplicate efforts by bringing in somebody that would basically do the same things? And so they found out, well, where are our blind spots and where is it that we want to go? And so when they brought me in, I called it serendipitous confluence, right? Because I was looking to obviously move on in my career. Been a cigar lover for many, many years, and so when it kind of came in and we all met, it was like meeting fast friends, to be honest with you, and kind of went from there. We all had a similar vision of what we wanted to do and similar energies, and so away we go.
And so are we seeing anything that sort of you have managed to ever seen in the short time being implemented at the trade show, or is this more of a, that was sort of already in motion, I'm going to sit back, if they put out any fires,
Sure.
but, sit back and learn, and then IPCPR 2019, we'll see some different approaches if there need to be?
Yeah, so, coming in just roughly about 2 months beforehand, even if there were things to change, that's not really a lot of time for a show this size. Having been 20 years in the association world, I've seen my fair share of trade shows, run my fair share of trade shows in some facet or another, been exhibiting things of that nature. But this one really is ultimately to dive in, learn everything I can, taking a look at things. I've already started to have conversations with members at multiple levels, associate members, the manufacturers, those who exhibit, as well as the retailers, to take a look and see what are some ways now that we can build on the success here, enhance certain things, make things, there are ways that we can make it more fluid, and ways that we can enhance the experience for everybody, right? Not just about what happens on the trade show floor, but everything that surrounds it as well.
All right, so 2 questions on that. I know you guys have to run. You have a busy schedule.
Yeah.
First question, what's the easiest fix you've seen so far?
To be honest with you, the easiest fix would be, I hesitate to say this, but
Besides the air conditioning.
Well, yeah, okay, so that's fair enough.
Or not letting Perdomo play drums yesterday.
I didn't even know about that. So one of the great fixes that has already happened is the fact that we're moving back to the contained aspect of the Sans Venetian, right? And that takes care of some issues, right? And I don't know if everybody's familiar with kind of some of the issues that we had leading up to this with, and you reported about it obviously with what happened at the Westgate and then having to move here. Then they had floods happening, and I joked that the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse were descending upon this trade show this year with everything that was happening. So I think that some of those issues are already taken care of as far as that's concerned. I think that we're, in terms of streamlining things like communications about what's going on here at the event and some of the other aspects of exhibiting, and as that changes over to the Sans Venetian, and it will be there obviously for the next couple of years. I think that 19 we might see a little bit of changes, but I think 2020 is when we're going to be looking at, because again, these do take time, and it takes good lead time. We're already booking booth space right now for next year. So I think in 2020, you're going to start to see some of the more significant changes that we've already been talking about internally as staff, as well as with the board and with the executive committee.
But beyond the big physical, necessarily heavily involved changes. I compare this show to Dortmund, which I think is probably a fairly close. It's tough. It's a different show, but there are things that happen at this show or don't happen at this show that happen at Dortmund that seem like relatively easy solutions. Dortmund, they walk around in a very German fashion and force people to fill out surveys about their experience in Dortmund. So they take all that feedback and then they make adjustments. I don't seem to recall that really taking place at this trade show ever.
Sure.
Certainly not with the German efficiency and strictness. They're scanning badges in daily, so they can measure. It's seemingly all this feedback and data that this show has just ignored for one reason or another. Are we going to see other changes like that where, you're out either getting formalized feedback or, I assume there's going to be a lot more shaking hands and kissing babies at this trade show than we've seen in the past from IPCPR? Because it seems like when I talk to the associates, there's a lot of complaints. There's the attendance debate, there's the cost debate. But the next biggest complaint is I don't really have a great relationship with them other than when things are going bad at the trade show, and we're trying to find Dawn.
Yeah. So yeah, hopefully I'm not kissing any babies on the trade show floor,
maybe,
because
I mean,
we don't want to have them, we don't want the FDA come down on us for that. But yeah, no, absolutely. So my biggest priority is obviously establishing relationships, as I am new. But yeah, one of the big things that we talked about when I went through the whole search committee process was getting better data. With a marketing background, I've done my fair share of surveys, and while they are great, and surveys do serve a specific purpose, one concern I have with surveys is that they're designed to give you the answers. They're only going to give you the answers they're designed to give you. And so we are, right now, we've already started to implement new ways of being able to gather data and gather intel. You run a website, you understand about gathering smart analytics and being able to understand what those are telling you.
If you look at those three back there.
Nevertheless. But we're taking a look at different ways where we can get better data, smarter data, so that we can. And obviously getting feedback from the associates and exhibitors and figuring out better ways where we can enhance everything from booths to sales to sponsorships, retailers, growing that membership. That's the flip side of it, really, right? Is that we know that there's a lot of retailers that are out there that maybe can't necessarily afford to come to the show, but once every 4 years. So that's the other thing as far as my goal is concerned, is to grow the suite of services for members so that there's a lot more that they get out of IPCPR than just a show, which helps bring them into the fold so that associates can actually get in front of them on a more consistent basis rather than just maybe once a year at the show.
No, and I think that's certainly a valid point. I know it's not something, that whole aspect of IPCPR is a membership. It is not a ticket to go to the show. I know that Greg has certainly tried to change that from the 3 weeks before the show. All of a sudden the memberships are being renewed. Now there's obviously penalties if you don't keep it upstanding, because for many years it was looked at, this is the ticket to walk in the doors and nothing more, nothing less. All right, so we got a couple questions. I'm not sure that we can really handle most of them. One question is, are you satisfied with the attendance levels of recent IPCPR shows? And what are you doing to get more retailers to come in? I think, some of that you obviously alluded to.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can necessarily be satisfied because you haven't actually seen the trade show happen yet.
Sure.
The two of you have, but...
Yeah, and I would say for me...
The PAC booth is a much different place.
And we have great success. No, I have. I mean, so I really, like I said, I really like to look at data, and it helps tell a good story about what we need to do. We're up from 2017 numbers, and that's good. And we're really working on trying to get cleaner data about the industry.
Do you know,
look at consolidations and what that actually represents and how many people, et cetera.
Not to cut you off, but do you know, because I always find it, people say, oh yeah, we're up from last year, but then it's tough because there was a drop in 2017.
Correct.
So do you know how we're tracking, or how you're tracking compared to 16?
We are a little bit below 16. I mean, all in all, openness and fairness as far as that's concerned. But my last official one was about 2 weeks ago that we saw any numbers.
Yeah.
And so I do know that, for instance, we obviously see, as you just said, we see a good spike the last week of people joining, retailers joining because they're coming. And so we have probably 20 or 30 more in this last week that joined than last year previously. So it obviously adds to the batch totals as well. So I don't have any concrete numbers, unfortunately, right this minute to give you, because we don't have them tallied as we're still going through the registration process. But the numbers have been better than 2017. They weren't quite to where they were in 2016, but we might end up closer to there than we are closer to 2017 for sure.
All right. So one last question that I think is pretty easy and a good note to end on. Somebody wants to ask, aside from contacting all of our reps, what else can consumers do? I assume that's not about cigar reps and trying to get in the trade show. I assume that's about some legislative stuff. So if you guys want to, the answer is probably a lot different from state to federal levels here, and also depending on what state you're in. But do you guys want to?
Before I just pass it to them, one thing I would just say is that the more we can get consumers to be involved in the process of being vocal is going to help us. Business owners and people who work for the companies, that's great, and that does help. But the more we can get more consumers actually adding their voices and visiting and adding their voices to this legislative aspect is going to help us. We need a larger grassroots aspect to what our message and what we're trying to do. So that would be my call, is let's see if we can't get our consumers more involved in that as well.
And to add to that, I know they want something in addition to just contact your reps, but I just want to say how important it is to contact your reps when we put out a notice on a specific bill. This year we've doubled the number of representatives that we've been able to reach, and we've reached more retailers and consumers, which has been great and has really helped our advocacy efforts. And then the other thing I would say is, as most of you know, this year is a huge election year on the state level and the federal level. On the state level, 82% of all legislative seats are up. one of the most important things you can do is vote. That who ends up in office will shape what we're able to do in the future, and it's so critical right now. And I think Daniel might want to speak to that a little bit on the federal level, but on the state level, I encourage you to get out and vote and to research the candidates that are on the ballot in your state, so you know what their positions are on tobacco issues. And if you go to your state attorney's general website, you'll be able to confirm that you're registered to vote, see where you vote, and you can also, if you want to vote ahead of time or something like that, you'll be able to register to do that. So I encourage all of you to go to your state attorney's general election website.
You're good. No, I was talking to Patrick.
And I will be quick here because
That's good, because it's about to be. You guys are the suits are leaving. We have solo cups and liquor.
A lot of good points have already been made.
As I call it, Tuesday night.
I will say, echoing what Scott and Rachel said, yes, get involved, but be informed. For retailers, for consumers, get to know the issues, get to know what's happening in Congress. Use resources like IPCPR. If there's something you have an interest in and want to get involved in your community, want to talk to your consumers, your customers about, speaking specifically to retailers, but for consumers, if you just want to know what's going on in the tobacco world and the cigar world, be informed. Work through IPCPR, some of the other associations out there. Sign up for our email alerts. One thing I'll also say is, talking to the ANPRM here for just a second, not just contacting your rep to tell them to send a letter or reach out to the FDA. You have the ability to issue a comment yourself. Go to regulations.gov, use the search query, type in premium cigars. You can find this regulatory review process.
Or you can go to Save Cigar City.
Yeah, there's all sorts of routes. Regulations.gov. We'll have a link on that.
That's the most direct path.
We'll have a link on that on IPCPRlegislative.org as well. But you can find it and issue a comment telling the FDA what you think they should do or shouldn't do, for that regard, with premium cigars and how they regulate them. And our hope is you tell them that premium cigars are a distinct tobacco product, same with pipe tobacco, and shouldn't be regulated or regulated worse than other tobacco products. So you have a voice not just with your rep, but certainly also with this administration, like we talked about earlier, which hopefully is more anti-regulation than pro-regulation.
All right. Any questions for us at Team Halfwheel before you go on to your next seminar?
I don't think so. Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
No, thank you guys. Every year, the members of the board, if not the entire board, has come up to us and said, what can we do to make your lives easier at the trade show? I've given them a laundry list of suggestions. Air conditioning is going to be the one for next year. But they have been very gracious. When I first started writing about cigars, which is roughly the same time that the two out of the three of them also back there were writing about cigars, my first trade show was a trade show where there was meetings going on, not amongst the executive committee, but various boards of IPCPR about whether or not to continue to allow bloggers into the trade show, because there were retailers and manufacturers, including some pretty prominent ones, that did not understand the value of what we were doing back then, which is quite different than what's going on now, not just with us, but with many of our other compatriots. And the IPCPR has certainly been very proactive and aggressive about trying to make sure that we can cover the trade show, and certainly I think we add quite a bit of value to the collective show.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
it's a lot easier than it could be, and it's a lot easier than it was. And so being able to do something like this is a radical departure from Jerry Cruz getting chased around in a golf cart for being on the trade show floor a day before a few years ago.
No,
and we thank you for that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, we definitely recognize and appreciate. No, hey, well, absolutely. I was here.
But
your
predecessors,
right? Yeah. No, but we recognize the fact that we're all in this industry. We all love the industry. We all love the products, right? And we all want to make it the best possible for everybody who is either producing it, selling it, or enjoying it, right? And if you happen to be one that does all three, then more power to you.
All right. Well, I know you guys have a lot to do. Enjoy the hand-rolled movie. Hopefully it's got air conditioning.
It does. I was there when they incurred air conditioning. How about this? I will find this. We can smoke. The seminar's going on right now. You can smoke. Yeah. But how about this? I will try to find somebody to sponsor handheld cooling devices for next year.
We've got these fans, but they're useless. I think next year we're just going to do it outside. It'd be cooler. They'd have some airflow.
Probably will.
Yeah. No, this is
But we'll be at a different location. Maybe we can see if we can find something different then.
Yeah, we can go do it in the remnants of the Circle Bar. Or the Circle Bar is still there. The remnants of the Champagne Bar.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Good luck the rest of the day and tomorrow, and don't let Dawn be too mean to you. Particularly you, Daniel. All right. So, our next, as the IPCPR folk head out, and a scissor lift revs the tension behind me. You can just leave that there. So our next guests are members of Team Halfwheel. So they're going to show up in a second. Brian Burt, is there anything you need to do with the equipment? Why don't you do that now? Patrick Lagreid, is there anything that I need to be aware of before you sit down? Probably. Beyond, okay, anything that doesn't need to be like immediately addressed before you sit down? Just because we have some time, so if we need to fix something, like I know we're still live, but if we do need to fix something, we should probably fix it now. Yes. Okay. Brooks, any? Everything's charged and ready to go. All right. I am serious. Someone get knock on the reach. There should be a yellow. You can get it underneath the table. There's an extra slot. There's a yellow extension cord behind you, Brian. That'll run. Okay. Michael is here.
I would suggest checking your phone, though.
Why?
Because it locked again and I can't access it and you have text messages.
Yeah, but where did the liquid go? What would you like? I'd like some diplomatic.
Yeah, no, we're not doing that yet. We're saving that until we get through this thing.
No.
Yeah.
Brian. Thank you. And if you want to grab me a silicone vinegar. No, I'm good.
Make sure everyone gets that because, you know, Charlie's not the only one working hard here. So he thinks he is, but.
He thinks he's the only one working hard. Thank you, Brooks.
Yeah, a couple more cups, please.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything on here that's important.
I don't know. I just saw a couple of messages come in and.
Holy crap. Kevin Anderson defeated John Isner 26-24 in the fifth set.
Thank you.
Did the
I don't know what that means.
Post tennis Wimbledon?
Liga Privada went up, yes.
Great. Okay. So
Cellucci's
out here, but he's not supposed to be on the 120. I'm aware of this. Ask Cellucci if he wants a drink.
So as we get set up here, welcome back to Halfwheel's IPCPR pre-show coverage. Yes, fill it. Very interesting first half. Interested to hear your comments on things. Seen a lot of the questions come in. Brian Burt's going to be joining us here in just a moment. Lots and lots of topics brought in, and try and do that. You know, Brian, as you sit down, I know we were both working the comments and didn't get to see quite everything, but we had Robert Holt in, the IPCPR staff was just here, Juan Ignacio Martínez, Dr. Alejandro Martínez Cuenca, the Quesada family. Anything that you happen to catch stick out in your head today, or?
I liked how everybody was pretty confident in everything that was happening. I heard positivity all around. There wasn't a lot of the doom and gloom feeling that I've felt in previous years, especially around, you know, FDA stuff. But I felt everybody was pretty upbeat. So that was good.
That's an interesting point too, because it seems like the last couple of years there really has been sort of this air hanging over the trade show and the industry in general, and maybe we've just been through it enough that it's like we got to just go, hey, you know what, we're going to be good, and FDA's out there, we're going to deal with it. We've got a couple, I don't want to call them wins necessarily, but we've gotten at least some pushback and a little bit breathing room, and even on the state level and the local level, it's not perfect, but okay, it's getting there, and let's go have a good, fun trade show.
Yeah, you know, I felt probably the height of it was probably around 2016, I'd say. I think was the most people were anxious about it. You could tell it was alleviating a little bit last year, but it was still there. This year, you know, I've heard a lot less worry about it. I think that people understand that, you know, there is going to be some sort of involvement, and I think, you know, they know we're going to get through it and figure it out. It's something that the industry does is, you know, adapt.
Right. And I can tell you, I mean, if you read the site and you see who's writing the articles, Charlie and I are handling a lot of the legislation stuff, and I can speak only personally that I really, you know, I enjoy the new products. I think they're great to see what's going on, what's new, what people are innovating with. both on the.
You gotta change that.
That's fine. Sorry. This is just a snippet of the kind of day it's been, so forgive us.
For the viewers, like watching me text people.
Well,
drink while you
hey, you know, maybe we should have hired a director then, buddy. So, good job.
I'm just glad that you guys had the voiceovers of Brian and Patrick to listen to while you were watching Charlie.
No, but I think the legislative side to me is one of the more interesting because there's certainly a lot going on, and it's happening at all these different levels. It's happening at 3,000 person towns banning smoking in their parks, to now 6 states, 7, 8, probably sooner than later, will make 21 the minimum age to purchase tobacco products or to possess, and it varies state by state. There is so much out there that I think, and then you layer it on kind of a highly politicized charge, a highly politically charged society as it is already, and you say where do we put where does tobacco fall in the great ranking of everything in the world? It's like, I want this for the economy and I want this for foreign relations, but I just want to be able to enjoy a cigar at the end of the day, and have fun with my friends and not have to be told, no, you can't smoke here.
It's for somebody that isn't as involved in it is certainly you and Charlie are. It's almost just a straight consumer. I certainly am just wondering, okay, well, when is it that I'm not going to be able to smoke at a lounge, and then after that, when is it I'm not going to be able to smoke on my back porch?
Right.
And there's already laws out there over that, but and I forget the state. I'm not going to try to remember.
Oh no, and that's one thing that we don't really cover. But
I live
smoking bans and shared housing.
Yeah, I live in Florida, and the Charlie and Brooks live in Texas, and you live in Phoenix, and those are all very cigar-friendly areas.
Right.
So we certainly have not felt the impact yet that some other states have.
Sure. Right.
But it's a trend, and it looks like it eventually will catch up.
Well, and I can speak to having lived and grown up in Seattle, where not only can you not smoke in a cigar lounge, you can't smoke within 25 feet of the store itself or any other store. Mm-hmm. So, the example that I use is a shop called Rain City Cigar. They partnered with, I want to say it was Altadas, to refurbish a 15 or 16 passenger minibus into a cigar lounge, and they park it out in their parking lot, and it's measured off
25 feet away.
And it's called the 25-foot lounge. And so unless you're on a Native American reservation, which there's a handful of, but in Seattle they were at least 30 minutes away, probably 45. You really were out of luck. And I remember there was a shop, and I don't want to misstate this, called Union Cigar Society, that was on Lake Union, excuse me, and they used to go down on a dock 50, maybe 75 feet away from the store and from whatever the building was, and they were still getting complaints, to the point where they just rented barges and they went out in the middle of the lake to smoke cigars. So it was like, hey, we're going to do a cigar event tonight. The event starts at 5, barge leaves at 7, and we'll be out in the lake for an hour and a half or 2 hours or whatever. That's the kind of stuff that, to me, I just find amazing.
All right, so unfortunately we're coming close to the time which Cellucci's supposed to be on here. But I will say this: the one optimistic part, and I think the one thing that's changed, from that law that was passed in Washington to what we now have, sort of in the rest of the areas, is that the IPCPR and other organizations, and particularly small business owners, have gone out of their way to say, look, we are cigar businesses. We are not, businesses that are selling cigarettes. We're not selling Swisher Sweets products. Not there's anything wrong with that. But we're cigar businesses, and we're a place where adults come and they walk into a humidor and they buy a cigar and they want to sit down and they want to smoke it in a place. And so I think that while there are extreme areas and extreme laws in some very small places that limit whether or not you can smoke in your own private single-standing home, in most states and in most cities, we are gaining traction where even when we're seeing smoking bans passed, we're either seeing cigar shops carved out. We're starting to see a lot more legislation that's allowing cigar bars specifically, even in places where smoking has been banned in places that serve liquor. And now local business members are saying, I want to have a cigar bar, and going to the city council and saying, look, can you allow me to have a cigar bar? We're not going to have people smoking cigarettes and serving, Michelob Ultras. We're going to serve whiskey. We're going to have cigars. We're going to sell both of them, and we're starting to see laws change. And so I think that the important part is that, A, there's a lot that needs to be done and a lot of doom and gloom and a lot of work where we need, more consumers to join the retailers and also more retailers and the manufacturers to write the letters and to go to the city council meetings and to say, look, we really want to keep these businesses alive. But also on the positive side, we're seeing scenarios where these people are going and it all takes is 5 or 6 at a city council meeting and saying, look, we are different. We are not cigarettes. We are not, little cigars. We're not, trying to run a sports bar with a smoking section. We're trying to run, sort of a nice place where people can go and enjoy and have a cigar. And that message seems to resonate with many people, even anti-tobacco people. I know that in the state of Minnesota, which for the longest time had some of the strictest between taxation and smoking laws, they went and they talked to one of the people that was leading the charge to pass these laws, that was a private citizen that had a group, anti-smoking group. And they took the woman and a couple of the other people that were in the group, and they took her to a cigar shop, and they said, look, this is what we're doing, and this is what your consistent outreach is causing. It's causing this business to shut down. It's not causing a place. Like, there's no way that you accidentally stumble into a cigar shop unless you want to go to a cigar shop. There's no way that you bring a child into a cigar shop unless you bring a child into a cigar shop. You know what you're getting yourself into. And they said the woman's eyes lit up and said, yeah, that's not what I have no issue with this. This is perfectly fine. As long as you keep the smoke inside and the ventilation's good, we're good with it. Minnesota since has had a lot of the laws that have been changed to be much more favorably. It is no longer anywhere close to as anti-tobacco as it once was. New York's a similar way, mainly with taxes. But we're seeing other states, Washington, unfortunately, not so much. It's still this sort of outlier when it comes to smoking. Any last thoughts for you guys?
Well, just one thought. Having listened to all of that, what camera are you on? This one?
I don't know. It's Patrick.
Well, I don't know. The thing's kind of frozen up. So I'm
that
not really
right now
sure, so.
Have you guys been plugging that in?
is why you should be paying
I plugged it in
attention
when it was over there. Yeah.
to Halfwheel, because Charlie is very informed on this, and he will just post very information that's good.
Well, I'll say this. We have unintentionally sort of done this. Patrick writes the majority of the local legislation stories. I certainly handle the vast majority of the federal stuff. And the state stuff's probably split close down the middle. We sort of pick and choose states where we're a bit more experienced with the laws. But, Patrick is very versed about what's going on a local level and is probably at this point a little bit more versed about what the localized scene on a city and county level looks like, particularly outside of a couple states where I'm pretty involved. Certainly on the federal level, I feel like I'm probably the more knowledgeable member of the site. But I remember the conversation that you and I had, Patrick, at the Golden Band Dinner here 2013, where I said, look, I think we should write about legislation. I think we should cover every smoking ban, every city, no matter how big or small.
Yep.
You were not as skeptical as most people were. We got complaints from retailers, from manufacturers, from readers saying, why are you doing this? And I tell people all the time is because eventually we're going to write about a city that's either where you live or where your parents live or where you go on vacation or where you grew up, and it's going to hit pretty close to home because while the legislation isn't passing most of the time, it is being proposed in just about every corner of America, and we think it's an important thing. We think that it shouldn't just matter that it's New York City or Chicago or Miami where you can't go light up in a park. It should matter at every city and state, and also it's been a lot of content for us, and obviously with FDA coming on board, legislation has become, some months it's the biggest topic that we write about, and so I thank you for all your work. I thank you guys for hopping on.
No, and I think just to add on to that, there's a very valid point about you can't mistake one drop and think there's not a leak somewhere, and that's what we've seen because these cities borrow templates from one another. Massachusetts is a prime example. 190 some odd cities, I think, have basically written the exact same piece of legislation, copied and
thanks to two pediatricians.
Yeah, and really, if you want to go and say one, he was really the.
But two.
But two really. It was.
All right. Unfortunately, Michael Cellucci is. Well, I don't think we're gonna have both of them on. It'd be kind of awkward. All right.
So with that,
Michael Cellucci, thank you, Patrick and Brian. Maybe you'll stop by towards the end of the show and we'll sit down and chat. We should only have one chair for the next two guests. Do you want to grab your solo cup?
Yep.
Thank you. I just want to let you know we're live.
Right now? Everything is live.
Yeah, so. All right.
Where do you want us?
Yeah. You guys want to sit down?
Thanks for the heads up on the line.
Yeah, I've been not meaning to, or I've been forgetting it And then people are like, "Oh, it's like no, like this is a 3-hour live show. It's not 3-hour like hit and pause. Otherwise, I'd go out and run out into the air conditioning every 5 minutes." All right, so you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Sure.
So if you want to, I don't know where the hell they went with the iPad, but let's just pretend that that's the camera that
Right here.
yeah, we're going to try to have you focus at.
Okay.
As best as possible. And get uncomfortably close to the microphones.
Roger that.
Yeah.
So I'm Mike Cellucci. I'm the president of Quality Importers in XIKAR. Newly president of XIKAR. We just finished the acquisition this February.
And pretty newly president of Quality Importers.
Pretty newly president of Quality Importers.
A year and a half now?
Yeah, January of 17 I took over president of Quality Importers.
And you mysteriously showed up at TPE.
When I mysteriously showed up at TPE to let everyone know the good news.
Well, not everyone. It's TPE. It's getting better, but at that point...
I'm not allowed to say stuff like that. You can.
I can.
So the last year and a half has been pretty exciting for us. I started with Quality Importers after 17 years with Drew Estate, and in a year's time we got to the opportunity of be able to purchase XIKAR, which is a great storied brand in the industry. Kurt and Scott have been friends for a long time, so we knew each other well. And we finished the acquisition in February, and now here we are to put our foot on the gas pedal in a little global domination, as I like to say. This is Suzanne.
Hello.
Suzanne is the director of trade marketing and is a lot of the brains behind our go-to-market strategy for XIKAR. So I'll let you finish introducing yourself.
I've been with XIKAR for a little over 6 years, and now getting involved with Quality Importers and just kind of handling all the product and trade marketing, as Cellucci said.
All right, so one thing you mentioned to me, I don't know, I guess the retailers are starting to get their bags today, but you guys have gone out of your way to make sure that everyone's got a lighter and a can of butane.
Yeah.
So, and not like a cheap lighter.
Right.
You guys went really all out here.
Went all out for it, yeah.
Yeah. And so is that one of the two products that's
yeah,
in the bag, or is it a different one?
This is the product that's in the bag, and the reason we did that is last year XIKAR had launched their HP butane under the name Purofine. But the meat of this is that it's an HP butane, so it performs better at altitude. It burns cleaner, it burns hotter. It'll actually clean your lighters if you have gunked up lighters. But the product was only launched in the large can here. And it was sold to tier 1 accounts. It didn't have full distribution. So one of the things that I noticed when I got in is that we had an innovative product and we were limiting kind of distribution to certain people. So we came up with, this is one of the products that we, after the acquisition, did have an effect on, to launch the 1.9 ounce. And we wanted to make sure everybody had a chance to get it and use it and understand that they could sell it in their shop. So we wanted to put it in all the bags. And we thought that the best way to demonstrate that was to have a quality lighter for them to use it in, rather than have their lighter with their butane in it. We wanted them to have a fresh, clean lighter, clean butane. And I don't mind going a little deep on the promo stuff. I never have, and I wanted to make sure everybody was taken care of.
State blood of
that is
of putting your name everywhere in the IPCPR convention and trade show as possible.
That's correct. You know,
if they could sponsor the parking lot, they would.
Yeah, listen, I may present that next year.
I tried to get them. I asked if I could sponsor the pre-show music, so that we could not have to listen to the Nick Perdomo drum show for the entire time.
Did they say no?
No, they said there was a lot less than I was expecting. So next year it's going to be the Sound of Silence.
There you go.
And maybe some rap music every once in a while.
I like it.
Patrick, are we still good on the front end? Back end problematic or good? Good? Great. Awesome. Okay, so I named you guys XIKAR as the company that I was most curious to see at the trade show. I think XIKAR, it's a very unique company in the sense that most accessory companies don't have full-time sales forces.
Mm-hmm.
XIKAR has one of the larger full-time sales forces for this entire industry. It's had that for a while now. In addition, as far as market penetration, the amount of shops that XIKAR's in, there's very few companies that really can compete with saying we have product placement pretty much everywhere where we want it in this category. I know that we're going to talk about other categories potentially. And also, like, we have premium space, we have the towers, like everyone knows our name, or most people seemingly know our name. And so yet, EQI comes and buys them, or buys XIKAR, which would suggest that you guys saw either a fire sale, which I don't think is what happened, or you guys at QI saw a serious opportunity to grow XIKAR.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so what would you say is the one or two biggest areas of growth that you're willing to talk about now
Yeah.
with XIKAR.
Well, I think when you combine what QI does and what XIKAR
Do you want to
does,
explain what QI, because you and I
will.
both know, but I think most probably retailers are probably
Right.
unaware of QI up until January.
Yeah. You know, when you combine the two of them, XIKAR has a brand. I'm a brand guy. I've always been a brand guy. And the brand as a launching point to get into stores is huge. It's a brand we respect. It's quality. It has a great following. What QI brings to the table is the ability to source and procure, not just for the XIKAR brand, but for every store, every manufacturer. You know, we are known as the humidor company. That's part of what we do. What we're really good at is sourcing and procurement. So when you combine the talent and the teams, really, of both XIKAR and QI, we are a company that has a brand that you can rely on, that we can put into your shop. We can drive to your store, to your company, private label, hard good products. We can help with design. We can help with sales and marketing initiatives, because we're putting together this team of people who've done this for other companies. So when you have that kind of talent, we can sit with any manufacturer and say, okay, what are your sales goals? This is what we suggest from a programming standpoint. Then we can source it, we can procure it, we can finance it, we can inventory it. That's really what QI does, amongst having the brands. What QI didn't have was a brand division from development to distribution. So we have, you know, Palio, and we have Stinky, and we have Hydra, and we have Cigar Caddy, but we didn't have a team out there giving it to the stores and managing inventory. So XIKAR comes in with the team to develop the store strategy with our brands. We take the sourcing and procurement and the customization capability, which we have in-house, to do short run, apply that to the XIKAR brand, and it's a really well built out team that I think that there's no one who can offer the capacity that we offer.
All right, so we have a reader question. Viewer Brett wants to know, what's the most difficult part of the transition been?
Well,
I know it's been great. There's been no problems.
Yeah, no, listen, transition is always difficult. You have two different corporate cultures to combine.
And I think two different corporate cultures, maybe a lot of the same goals, but I mean, my impression of you and the other Mike, who the other Mike has been at QI forever, is obviously one of the founders, and you obviously with your days at your state and recently QI, and then I compare that to the team that was at XIKAR, not the same ethos, maybe the same goals.
The same goals, but
and maybe a lot of the same values, but not the same operational focuses.
No.
Very different approaches to how to solve the same problem.
We were going through the transition with me and Giordano over the last year. Just me coming from Drew Estate, going to Quality Importers, and me coming in with my methods and my madness, and Giordano with his own methods and madness. And in the middle of that, you throw in, hey, let's roll in another company with a completely new portfolio and a team of salespeople. And
a different state,
all that up.
A lot of physical infrastructure that was brand new.
Yeah, that's really just checking off boxes.
Yeah, but it's a different mentality. I mean, you're going from having one operation to having two operations.
Right.
The toilet breaks in one place, and the toilet could break in the other place.
Right.
There's little things I imagine like that are maybe not coming to your desk, but certainly.
Yeah, but
some differences.
It's like getting bit by a mosquito. Like, you deal with it. It's not the biggest deal.
Quote is from the president of Quality Importers: "Is buying XIKAR was like getting bit by a mosquito."
Operational toilets breaking.
Yeah.
Is like getting bit by a mosquito.
Why wasn't that in the press release?
It's really getting teams together, because the teams make the difference in these companies. Everybody in this building has brands to sell. Brands are good. Can always be good, but when you have a solid team, you can really accomplish a lot. So getting the mindsets together and getting everyone to buy into what because it's new for Quality Importers and it's new for XIKAR. It's not XIKAR adopting QI's ways or QI adopting XIKAR's ways. We're creating a new way for us to move forward and take the company to a new direction as a combined unit.
All right, so we have some questions about some XIKAR products. We've got a couple questions about the X-Flames. The X-Flame is an electronic lighter. It was previously sold by another company called Fuego, which Patrick reviewed. The selling points of the X-Flame are that it doesn't have any butane, so you don't need to refill it. It's a lithium-ion rechargeable battery via USB.
Yeah, it's not good for our butane business.
Yeah, but you can bring it on a plane.
Yeah.
It's a lot more windproof than a traditional lighter of any capacity would be. The high-altitude concerns go away. There still are some of the overheating concerns, but it's really not going to overheat. If it's 130 degrees outside, both options
Yeah.
are not going to work. You just take the cigar and wave it, and it lights itself.
Right.
So when is the X Flame shipping to stores? That's one question we've got. I think we probably mentioned it in a.
Yeah. What's our?
It'll be in August.
All right, and then someone wants to know how the feedback has been about X Flame.
Well, the feedback that I have is just from the people I've given it to, and the initial reaction when I give it to them is, why does this make sense? It hasn't really jumped out at anybody until they use it. When they use it and they see how well it works and how simple it is, and they start thinking through the fact, listen, I'm a guy who travels for a living, so I smoke cigars everywhere I go. The fact that I can take that in my carry-on is huge. As soon as I get out, I can light up. I don't have to worry about finding anything. So when people see how it works and they see how easy it works and they see the benefits of it, the feedback has been great. I haven't had any like failure feedback as far as performance goes. The fact that you can apply the coil to other mods in the market and take different battery power and juice it up a little bit, it makes it very versatile. So the feedback I've had, while limited, has been very good.
All right. Some other questions. How hard has it been to constantly come out with new products?
Well, I will make my comment, then I'll let Suzanne comment, because I've been doing the hard goods side for about a year and a half now. I've had ideas kicking around and bringing them to market. It's a little easier than tobacco because it's more just design. You don't have to worry about materials, marrying with one another and waiting for the sick period to end. So I kind of have my foot on the gas, saying to the designers, like, hey, I want to see this, I want to see this. My biggest slowdown is just everyone trying to get all the ideas put together that we have in place. But I'll let Suzanne speak from a brand standpoint, because I think it's a little different from them on the historically staying true to brand and stuff like that, which I really haven't dug into yet.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes both ways. Sometimes it's very easy to come up with new innovation. Our sales team does a great job of talking to the retailers, seeing what the consumers want, because really that's what we try to produce is what consumers want. But then, they're lighters and cutters. There's only so many ways to make them unique and different. So really kind of just depends what the trends are going on. We came out with the XO 2 years ago, which was a huge new innovation in the cutter category. Now we're looking to what's the next new type of cutting style. The XI1's been around for 20 plus years. So it kind of ebbs and flows, goes in waves. And now with the X Flame getting into electronic, and then we're coming out with flat flames. So not necessarily new products, but trying to get into new categories as well.
All right, I think we have the question that you guys will be asked the most. Anthony wants to know, will the current Xikar warranty replacement program continue as it has been?
Yeah, it actually, there's no way it's going away. If anything, I may double down on it, expand it, and
break one lighter, get
more.
two for free?
Yeah,
yeah.
It's the Drew Estate way, right, I guess.
You said that, not me.
No, that warranty's not going anywhere. It's important to the brand. We believe in it, and we believe in the products, so it's staying. When I say a doubling down, is just, I don't think enough people know about it. I see the research shows me that, people who buy their stuff online, they feel maybe a little guilty bringing it to a retailer because they bought it on Amazon or something like that. So I'm looking for ways to incorporate the retailers more, make them more a part of the program, and make it less hassle for the retailers, and make it a faster process for the final consumers, because we want them to have the right products in their hand, and we don't want them to be frustrated. So it's not going anywhere.
All right, we have more questions, but unfortunately we are out of time. We're going to move on to your competitor. Yeah, one of your competitors.
Thanks for having it in the frame. I appreciate that.
They gave us. You're not really in the ashtray business. I know you have ashtrays, but that's really not a primary focus of.
It's a
Xikar.
huge part of our business, but it's okay.
Yeah. I mean, we thought we were going to be able to smoke, and then they brought them over, and I don't know. They look really nice.
They do look really nice. I give it to them.
And with your ashtrays, if someone comes in here and tries to steal a camera, we can't injure them with your ashtrays. With these,
that you certainly can.
Yeah, they're
I think
heavy.
You can lift it.
Have you? Yeah, I mean they're.
Yeah, no, I have.
Serious.
They're substantial.
Yeah. No. Anyway, thank you two for stopping by.
Thank you guys. Thanks.
Are you guys done with your booth setup, or are you going to have to stay in this terrible room?
No, we're just about finished our booth setup, thankfully, and then we're
sales
off
meeting.
to get ready for the show.
Yep. All right. Well, good luck tomorrow. I know that Patricia will be stopping by at some point, and
look forward to it.
Taking things out of cases.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thank you. Do you want to take the butane? Sorry? Oh, I'm aware of that, but I'm trying to figure out what Brian's doing. Okay. All right, so we are trying to resolve this. Jimmy, we're live. We are throwing XIKAR out. If you want to, Brian, can you grab the chair and the other microphone, or someone of you? Yeah. So he's going to grab the chair, and then we're going to have you scoot over a little bit more in the center. Cellucci really appreciated having the Colibri ashtray in front of him for that entire interview.
I hope you liked it.
All right. So here we are. I will say, I mentioned this to you the other day, that I had made it so that we weren't going to have back-to-back XIKAR and Colibri things, but then he had a sales meeting, and so they switched, and that was originally supposed to be Liana Fuente's time, but she's got a sales meeting now, and
Everybody's friends here.
Yeah, you know.
It's okay.
It is what it is. Okay, so we got Jimmy from Colibri. Colibri's another company celebrating the anniversary.
We are?
90 years.
90 years, yeah.
Yeah, and so you've brought some of the 90th anniversary collection.
I have.
Oh, and you've brought the USB stick.
I did.
Can I play with the USB stick?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, all right. So why don't you talk about the 90th anniversary collection?
Sure. So
I try to break this.
The company's celebrating its 90th anniversary. The company started in London in 1928, and it started with an innovation, a new lighter, and it was a change.
Hold on, do you want to?
Yeah.
Brooks, do you want to hand me those items? And Brooks, we can pull that 7200 pretty close, right?
Yeah.
All right. So why don't you swap this out?
Yeah. And I'll throw this so you can see on the screen.
Yeah. All right.
So the company started with an innovative lighter. We had developed a mechanism to automatically.
It's not this lighter, for the record.
It's not that lighter.
Right.
But it was a mechanism to automatically light a flint lighter, where you'd basically, instead of flipping hard, rolling the flint wheel really fast with your thumb, you could just wind back a lever, let it go, and it would just light. And with that, the company took off.
We'll let him talk, and then when we talk about this, we'll do this.
And so the company has a long history and a long heritage of innovation, and that's something we always try to do, is innovate both in design and in technology. And so we're commemorating that with one of our more popular, actually our most popular cutter, which is the V-Cut. And right now, one of our most popular lighters, which is the Colibri Rally. And on one side...
All right, so we have the Rally right here.
Yeah, that's the Rally.
So this is a single flame. Action moves up.
Yep.
And then it's got the big... Got it. It's got the big thumb wheel at the bottom and to adjust the flame. And then I doubt we're going to be able to see this on the lighting, but I'll try to do this. And then on the sides here, on one side, you've got the ignition. The other side, we've got the big blue fuel window.
Exactly, yeah. Easy to
so,
read, tall.
Yeah, texture, flip out top. This is great because it's working every time. This would be very bad for you if it wasn't working every time. So that's the lighter. Only available in this color, or is there other color?
No, there'll be it's a series of for the 90s. There's a series of 4.
Okay.
There's gun in red, gun in blue, all gun, and there'll be a gold in black.
Almost yellow and black. We're getting close. And then we have, as always, the popular Colibri V.
So on one side, you'll see the theme. The art is themed with London, and on the other side, New York, where now we are headquartered in New York City.
You're like right on Times Square too. Like you guys have to have the most expensive rent of any cigar-related company.
It's up there, I'm sure. But
when you go to the office, it's like go meet by the TGI Fridays in Times Square.
No, we're a few blocks from Times Square, so it's a little bit of a while to get home.
All right, so this is the 90th collection. Separate or sold together?
Well, they'll be available as a set, and they'll be packaged in as a set, or you can get them individually.
All right, and so shipping.
Most of our new introductions are shipping in October of this year.
So right before the holiday season.
Just before the holidays, they'll be in the stores. Yeah.
All right, and so that's the 90th. I'll take these and put these in my pocket, and then can I see the USB stick? All right, so. This is not a USB stick.
No.
Do you want to tell us what this is?
That is the latest Quasar product from Colibri, and that is a 3-hole punch. So
you have a 3-hole punch over there.
You do, yeah, except this is for cigars, not your notes. And this is a new item for us. We haven't done a punch in a little while, and we've been focusing on cutters. And we had this great idea for the mechanism, and thought that it would fit well with the Quasar theme, and so it also was fun. We liked the idea that it's not obvious what it is, and it fits well with the rest of the products in that series. So we're pretty excited about it. It's it's just fun. It's exciting. I think.
Pricing on that?
That will be $59.
All right. So pretty affordable for Quasar, because that's a premium line for you guys.
Yeah,
I mean, not to
Quasar-
say that the rest of Colibri isn't
Yeah.
premium, but it's certainly some high-price items
Yeah, well,
have
they-
shown up, and then we've had some value or closer
the
to
products
value.
that we launched Quasar with were generally, on the higher end for what we offer, like the humidor over $1,000, and obviously, cutters over $100 are a little bit more than average. But overall, in general, we try to be more of a value brand and try to give you premium quality, premium design, as affordably as we can make it for you.
And in lots of bright colors.
And in lots of choices and colors, yes.
Particularly bright ones like this red. Which
Yes.
is,
Well, if you're going to be red, be red.
Yeah, no. I have
Yeah.
shoes that are basically
I'm
this color.
wearing shoes that
Yeah.
are red like that.
All right.
Yeah.
So we have a question. Somebody wants to know, does Colibri have a lifetime warranty?
We have a 2-year warranty on all of our products, lighters and cutters, and that's basically what we've done throughout our history.
Yeah. And so you've got some other products as well.
Launching,
at the show.
Yeah, we do. We have
Including, do you have the cutter?
I don't have the cutter
Oh.
with me. I'm sorry, but we have another product in the Quasar series, which is the Quasar Cut, which is our double guillotine cutter, and we've carved out the inner blades. So part of that was actually to make it a little bit lighter, actually, because people do like a little.
Really,
bit.
and make it because you guys have been on making pretty heavy accessories.
Yes.
Obviously not like heavy, super heavy, so they're not usable. But
Yeah.
like, there's certainly been an aspect, and I have to imagine it was intentional, of like making things that feel heavy and substantial in your hand, even if they could be made a bit lighter.
The intention wasn't to make it heavy.
That's odd.
The objective was not to make it heavy at all. No, in fact, at first it was a fear to make it too heavy. And with the V cut, it had to be heavy because we had to make a deep V, and the blade forced the body to be a certain depth, and that depth if we wanted to be a solid piece, it just meant you had a lot of mass. There's a lot of metal there, and so therefore it became heavy. And as we developed bigger and larger lighters, and I was a little bit timid. But what we found is that there's actually no objection to the weight. A lot of people like the weight.
No, I certainly do.
Yeah, but I think that what's going on is with cigars, it's not a spontaneous thing. You're not gonna just all of a sudden spend an hour smoking a cigar. You're gonna plan it out. So generally, people have their equipment wherever they're going to be. They know where they're going to be. So this might be a piece you only keep at home. But most guys have lots of accessories, and they'll have accessories that they'll travel with, something they'll just toss in wherever they're going, and then there's stuff they'll keep at home or by their in their den, and something like a large Colibri Astoria will probably stay at home.
All right, so you guys, Calibri's got a long history, obviously 90 years.
Yeah.
But also like post-World War II.
Yeah.
A lot of designs, even pre-World War II, but post-World War II, a lot of designs in the 50s and 60s.
Yes.
And you have said, you told me the other night, you're
Yeah.
trying to use them as inspiration,
All the
or in
time.
some ways, to even use them to see if you can replicate it with modern internals and maybe
Yeah.
a little bit different sizes. What's the one, what's the opus? What's the one item that's in the Colibri archives that you really want to see come back in some form or fashion?
It's funny because we're very lucky because we have such a long history. We have the archive, and I have all our catalogs. It's so deep. There's a lot to draw from, like the Quasar, and the Quasar series. But a lot of people ask us for the beam sensor all the time, but for me, what I would really like to study a little bit more is to develop for example, I have an old Colibri sort of a flint. These old-fashioned sort of pieces. These elegant. I really find them really elegant.
Hey, Brooks. Can we get the 7200 working again? Yeah.
And I'm lucky enough to have, I have a pretty good collection of old Colibri lighters, and I really like some of the old classic stuff. And I think that there's, with the success that we had of the Julius lighter, which is a double flame soft flame lighter, I think that there's a space for something really elegant and something really I don't want to say that it's retro, but something that has that old classic look that can fit in with some of the more spacey stuff that we're doing.
All right. Somebody wants to know, if they pay extra, can you make the flash drive a flash drive? I guess you pay enough, you can make it a flash drive. All right, Jimmy, thank you for stopping by.
Appreciate it.
I will
Thank
give you all
you.
the stuff back. We're going to give you these
No
ashtrays
problem.
back eventually.
Thank you.
No, here you go.
Oh, you give me that?
No. Believe me, that's not a good idea. Thanks, Charles. Appreciate it. Thank you for stopping by. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
All right, let's bring on CRA. We got a surprise guest. Phone is overheating. So, Mr. Loop, this is going to be a quick one. So we saw each other last night at the wonderful Casa Fuente. Glenn said, we got to talk about some things. I said, why not do it live on video? So here we go. Glenn, we are live. We are. But be careful of that wall. Okay, so we're live. We got Glenn Loop, Exec Director of CRA.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for stopping by.
What a great idea this is.
Oh, well, it would be much better with air conditioning and smoking.
That would be good too, but we'll take it any way we can
do
get
have
it.
alcohol, but this will be quick. So, all right. So I mentioned the other day, somebody asked a question about CRA, and I said some things about CRA. I imagine if this wasn't the comment that I imagine is what we need to talk about, then let me know. But I suggested that CRA markets itself as a consumer organization and is really not a consumer organization. It's an organization that's funded by manufacturers, controlled by manufacturers for the most part as far as the board goes. Is that the comment that we need to talk about?
Oh, we could talk about that, but it begs the question about the larger questions confronting this industry. And first, we can agree to disagree on whether or not we're a consumer organization. But I think any organization...
Do you consider yourself a consumer organization?
Absolutely. For one major reason. We activate consumers across the country.
Yes.
We activate consumers. You don't put 500,000 petitions into the United States Congress and the White House and not be engaging consumers. And I think that's the significant comment here. We're doing it at the state level, the local level, and the Washington level, where we are engaging consumers, teaching consumers on why they have to be engaged in the political process for the first time in this industry's history. So in that respect, yes, I think we're fulfilling the original purpose of CRA.
But do you think, I know you can walk and chew gum at the same time, what would you consider a more important aspect of CRA's operations? The consumer end that you just described, 500,000 letters to various members of government, local to federal level, or the fact that this really is serving as the premium cigar manufacturers industry? I mean, there are guests, including some that are about to come on, who spend a lot of money through CRA to fund these lawsuits, which are going to cost millions of dollars. They've already cost it. And it's not something the IPCPR does. The IPCPR is spending the money, but they're not rallying. They're not in charge. They're a retailers organization. We can have that debate.
Right.
The CAA is not doing it because they're mainly focused on the bigger little cigar manufacturers, not the people that you largely see around here, whereas CRA is that group. You and Robbie are the ones going to the manufacturers that have cigars and humidors and saying, look, we are going to spend millions of dollars trying to fight the FDA in a courtroom.
Right.
We need your money.
There's absolutely no doubt that CRA is serving a dual purpose. And I don't deny that at all. In fact, I'm very proud of it. I think we're fulfilling a political purpose for a lot of manufacturers that are not represented by other trade organizations, and we're activating consumers on the political front for the first time in history. You look at the top 25 donors to CRA, it's some of the most significant players in this entire industry, and we're very proud of that. And we have, listen, we didn't ask to be engaged in the FDA process. This battle was thrust upon us because of the political demand and the threat of the FDA regulations. And that behooved the organizations that do support CRA and our board of directors to come to their defense and really design a political defensive system for this industry.
But it's accurate to say that the CRA started because there was a disagreement with the original S-chip, not the one that ultimately went into law, but with S-chip 1, or I'm completely off here.
Right.
And there was a meeting with the CAA who used to have a lot more, not all of the premium players, but a lot more of the premium players. And it was simply the case that the family-owned premium businesses did not have the money that these other corporations that sell little cigars largely to C-stores and other places. And the CAA's interests were where the money was, as it is oftentimes the case. And so these manufacturers, led by, you and Jeff Borshwitz and Keith Park and then certainly, Jonathan and Carlito and Marvin and Rocky and the long list of people. You guys went on a barnstorming tour. There was 2 groups.
They did. That was before I joined the organization.
That was before you.
Yeah.
But it started because they realized their interests were no longer being served by CAA.
I wouldn't say that, Charlie. What I would argue is that the S-chip battle woke up this industry for the first time, that it needed a grassroots voice that it never had before. That was the wake-up call. Are there always disagreements in any given industry? It's that way with the beer industry, salt, sugar, cab drivers, you name it. You go across the political spectrum. But right now, we're working as, I think, a very succinct coalition for the purposes of this new public comment period. We're sharing a lot of data on health impact types of issues and demographic types of issues that are going to be a part of our public submission on July 25th. CAA and IPCPR and CRA are working in concert to develop that type of research. I think that's very positive for the industry. And if we part ways on things like definition of a premium cigar, then so be it. But the point is to develop a coalition capable of defending this industry. And if CAA hits this point, IPCPR hits this one, and we hit that one, that means all the political points are covered eventually. And I think that's the positive outcome of all this.
But we should point out that this is the first time, at least that I've been in the industry, where the three groups, the CAA, which once again largely represents people that make, billions of little cigars a year. So it's not just Swisher. There's other companies involved, Altria and Imperial and whatnot. The CRA, which represents the premium cigar business that's here at this trade show, and the IPCPR, which, at least in theory, represents the retail interest. We now have at least some commonality, not just with the lawsuit, but also with that definition of premium cigars, which is a massive step to where we
haven't totally agreed on that definition.
So the premium cigar definition is still up in the air.
Yes, it is.
All right. But we're much closer than where we were.
And the fact that we can share this health impact data and demographic data and patterns of usage data is a very positive commonality between the three organizations.
All right, so
I wouldn't say we're all agreement on the definition yet.
Okay, so we'll work on that with our friends at the CAA, I suppose. But we had a question earlier when the IPCPR people were on. We had three folks from there. Somebody asked a question which I thought was an interesting one, which is, beyond contacting your local representatives, what do you recommend we do, in terms of the cigar regulation fight? So what would your answer be?
Before July 25th, file your own comment. Go to cigarrights.org. Front and center is a model statement that consumers can use. You can cherry pick that. You can pick and choose the parts of it that you want to submit. Put it in your own words. That goes to the FDA, not to members of Congress. Filing that is a great exercise for consumers to be engaged in this premium cigar public comment. Secondly is outreach to members of Congress. But let me announce right here, in fact, I think I've only said this one other place. The week of September 4th and the first week of October, we're going to mobilize consumers across the country to visit district offices of every member of Congress and every member of the United States Senate. That's when Congress comes back from the August recess. We're actually going to put consumers, we're going to tell them what to say, we're going to provide them materials, and we're going to have them visit each district office in the country.
Obviously, the CRA ambassadors will be informed about that, but if you're a consumer sitting watching this and you want to be part of that,
absolutely,
what's the process?
Go to info@cigarrights.org and let us know that you're willing to visit your member of Congress's office, and we'll provide you all the information you need.
All right, so we've gotten actually a couple questions. We're trying to figure out who our next guest is because one's running late, one's 20 minutes early, but in the meantime, while I figure that out, okay, so we're good. Just to give you some programming notes, I guess, for everyone else involved, Willy Herrera from Drew Estate's going to go on next in a couple minutes.
He's out here?
Because he's out here. He came a half hour early, which is, for this business, incredible. And then Pete Johnson, who was originally supposed to be on at 2, is actually going to be on at 2:20, so we'll round it out with Pete Johnson. So, before we put Willy on, one last question. Spencer asked, should the cigar industry help the fight by joining the vaping industry in what is basically the same fight? His words, not mine, probably not yours. But do you see any reason to join with the vaping industry? I know that there was formal outreach to the vaping industry with the language that was put into the appropriations bill.
No.
So that was just between CAA, CRA, and IPCPR.
Yes.
And the vaping industry was obviously not thrilled about how that went down.
Well, I mean,
some of them were, but most of them were not.
I've received calls from representatives of vape associations. I think to better defend the premium cigar industry, the cornerstone of that strategy is differentiating ourselves from any other product that the FDA regulates. And that's the reason I would just have to say no, I don't see any political benefit in joining forces with vape. They've got to fight their own political battle.
Well, Glenn, we're going to end on a note in which you and I totally agree, unless Duncan Hunter becomes president of the United States of America. Thank you, Glenn, for impromptu stopping by. We appreciate it, and
Yes, Charlie, appreciate halfwheel for all you do.
And you managed to wear that suit without sweating your ass off. And
can't believe it in here.
Well, the problem is there's no ventilation except these fans, which is just blowing air inside, and then we're close to the loading dock. And there's lights and everything else. And
honestly, I thought it'd be worse.
I think it's getting better. I don't know if they've closed some of those gates back there, but it's not.
But I do want to.
Yeah, you know why I'm in the hoodie is because I was literally, my arm kept sticking to the tablecloth, It's not because like I'm cold. It's because it was gross and awkward. And I was afraid at one point I was going to lift my arm up and the table was going to come with me.
So I do want to say this is a great idea, and I commend Halfwheel.
You and my
for
father
undertaking
love this
project.
idea.
No, it's
not the
fabulous.
company. My actual dad has loved these series. He's wondering why we can't do them more often.
It's a great idea, and any way that helps spread the word about what this industry is confronting and what it can do to work together to confront these types of battles, whether it's a smoking ban in Louisiana or FDA regulation, helping to spread the word through mediums like this is fabulous.
Well, thank you, Glenn, for stopping by and all the work that you and the rest of your organization do with the manufacturers and the consumers. And good luck in the fight. We certainly are rooting for you.
Thanks, Charlie. Appreciate
it.
it.
All right. Thanks, Glenn. Yeah, is it? But it's just Willy's or Sam coming on. Both of them are coming on. Okay. We're going, yeah. Sorry for that. We're trying to deal with some logistical stuff. So as I mentioned a second ago, we got Sam Morales walking in. We got Willy Herrera walking in. They have a very brief amount of news.
Brief?
Very brief news from the Drew Estate folk. All right, let me see if I can do this off memory. All the new Drew Estate products that you guys have announced, there might be more coming, but all that's been announced, got Liga Privada 10 Aniversario, H99, the extensions, the new size for Liga Privada. We got 2 new brands for you, plus packaging on the 2 previous brands. We have the 14 new tins, includes some of Joya stuff. We've got Isla de Sol, Maduro,
Yes.
as well as the Gordito.
Yes.
The bundles. We got
Bundles.
5 bundle lines? 4 bundle? 4.
Bundle lines.
What did I miss?
Cinco de Cadas.
Well, that's Joya.
Well,
Yeah, I'm
family.
not. Yeah, I mean, it's stuff you distribute. But if we start playing that game,
Oh, then it gets dangerous.
the debonair, you know, then I'm done. But did I get all the Drew Estate?
You did.
That's good.
You did.
Yeah, and the special stuff.
And the
All right,
specials.
so-
Actually, no, you missed
Can you
Dogma.
talk into the microphone?
You missed Dogma.
Oh yeah, Dogma goes. Well, it's not new, but it goes regular production.
Correct.
All right. So, what on earth made you think that 10,000 Anniversario, Liga Privada 10 Anniversarios is a good idea? You could sell those out at the show in 5 seconds, and you could have one large event at a large retailer and sell them out in one day.
Sure.
Like, do you want fights in the booth? Like, what's the goal?
I don't think we want fights, but I don't think we were.
Oh, yeah, you got to
thinking-
hold the microphone closer, particularly with that going on in the background.
I don't think you were thinking so much about how many we were making at the time. It really came down to the limitations of the good stuff that we
You got to
found.
talk with whatever is behind us. You
My
got to talk
bad.
straight into the microphone.
Okay. When we think about the quantities, it kind of after Willy started messing around with the tobacco. Can anybody hear me or no?
No, let's just. All right, let's try it now. Who knows what they're doing?
Try? Yeah, so I mean, after you started blending like crazy, right? You know, we weren't really thinking about production numbers or like selling a ton of cigars. We were just trying to make the best cigar possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of went in it a little backwards than we normally do. Normally, before I start working on a blend, I make sure I'm going to have enough tobacco to go forward with a blend. But with this, it was such, something so special that I just went right into it. We didn't even, bother to see if we were going to have X this, X that. We just took off running.
And so you guys have. Just can't get a win today. So, you guys are obviously brick and mortar only.
Yeah.
For 10.
Yeah.
H99 as well, or just 10? Yeah. Okay, so only going to brick and mortars. H10's crazy limited production. But more sizes will come eventually. But this size is 10,000 cigars. It's nothing.
Sure.
Any other? You mentioned to me privately earlier in the week that you had some interesting distribution aspects about how is that the basics of it? It's brick and mortar only and obviously DDRPs and.
Yeah, so we have the Drew Diplomat Retailer Program, which is how we kind of give out some of the more exclusive products that we produce. For the Liga H99 and for the 10 Anniversario, there's going to be, it's only 2 DDRPs and it's only 2 their brick and mortar locations, so we're not looking for it to be online in any way, shape, or form. But really what it comes down to is there's going to be kind of like it's almost like a lottery, but it's not really a lottery. It's like more of a sweepstakes-based system in order for people to actually be able to buy the product. So it's not going to be something where we're just going to like open season sell it.
I was thinking about it last night. I struggled falling asleep in this whole bonanza, but I was thinking about that because we got the press release because obviously we're a little busy at the moment. But I was wondering if you don't do it like particularly with that release, like sort of like Goose Island. Like you pick like a Liga day, like Goose Island does with BCBS, their big stout release of the year. It's always Black Friday. Like you pick a Liga day, you ship it to retailers, you tell them you can't open it until whatever, September 15th, and then one day Liga 10 and a couple of the other crazy things go on sale.
Sure.
And then like September 16th, they're done. They're gone. You can have lines out the door. You can have fights in the parking lot. It'll be great.
Sure.
Someone can bring a gun to Serious Cigars.
Yeah, right.
Shoot a customer.
Right.
I
hope that doesn't happen.
It did happen.
What?
Someone shot a customer. Yeah, there was.
Oh my God.
There was some cheating and yeah, no, they shot that. They walked out, got the gun, walked back into the store, shot the customer. Because he was threatening to beat him up, and the guy was like, "Yeah, you can't keep threatening to kill me," and so the guy went out and bought it was self-defense. It's crazy. Came back, put the gun on the counter, and told Ron Lesser or whoever was working, "I'm sorry, call the police." He was threatening to beat me up, and I got the gun, and things got out of hand. And
oh my God.
Wow. Yeah, no, crazy. Crazy. Okay, so Willie, I have a question for you.
Yep.
It seems like, and maybe you're an unexpected guest for this. So it seems like from the marketing end now, Liga Privada with the 2 new releases, H99, which has got the Connecticut Corojo, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then 10's got Criollo.
Right.
So now we've got Habano, Broadleaf, Connecticut Criollo, not Shade. We'll get to that eventually. It seems like Liga Privada is our premium, it's Drew Estate's premium Connecticut brand. It's about the Connecticut wrappers, the wrappers we grow in Connecticut. Jonathan's got the quote, the Hardys, those things like that. And then you've got Herrera and Pappy, which now seem like the premium brands for the rest of the tobacco sphere. Is that how this is sort of working at this point, or is that just a bad read?
I mean, in my eyes, they're all super premium.
Those
to
are obviously
me,
the super premium brands, but it seems like Liga is now, it's Connecticut. Like you guys have made it would be very odd to see next year you guys put Mexican San Andreas on Liga.
Well, with Liga, we just wanted to keep it, keep it original in the sense of keep the tobaccos coming from the U.S. with at least the wrapper. So you got Connecticut Broadleaf, you got the 99, you got the Criollo. We just wanted to keep it all U.S. And in the future, God knows what other wrapper will use from the U.S. and come up with a Liga.
FTA does.
FDA
is going to find out.
Well, we got a lot of stuff put away.
But I mean, when you're blending stuff, is it is there any difference? Like, how do you delineate between blending for a Pappy or blend? I mean, I guess the Pappy stuff has been a bit different, and then the rest of it was a blend that you had previously developed that became the tradition, versus blending for Herrera versus blending for Liga.
Because everything that we come out with, we have basically a goal, something we want to achieve with the blend, a target that we want to hit, a gap that we want to fill in the portfolio.
So that's flavor, that's price, that's quantity,
it could be strength, it could be wrapper. Yeah. For example, like you said, there's no Connecticut Shade in the Liga family, so maybe next thing we do a Connecticut Shade, super ultra mild, as opposed to the Undercrown Shade.
It's still Connecticut.
But it's still Connecticut, right? So everything that we come up with, we think about. We just don't come out with stuff for the sake of coming out with something new. There's a reason for it.
I would say on the Liga side though, for the Connecticut Corojo, it just tastes unbelievable. I mean, that's just the truth. We hit the lottery. We were really looking for something on the 10-year anniversario side. And, the Corojo was just unbelievable. And then on the Criollo, the Criollo was kind of like the sleeper choice. You know what I mean?
Right.
As you started to pass those blends out around the office and we started all smoke them together, we were like, God damn, this is good. It was really just about blend. I mean, look, celebrating 10 years of Liga Privada, think through the scrutiny internally on a blend and then think through, obviously, the scrutiny externally.
Right.
What we really just tried to do is make the best cigar we possibly could. That was it. We didn't think about price, production numbers. We didn't think about how it was, necessarily packaged until very, very late into the end of it.
The packaging is fantastic. Was the intention, now that you say that, how far along the process did you say we're going to have the UF13 style cap, we're going to have a covered foot? I mean, that's obviously, you've seen some crazy sizes and crazy, whether it's the pigtails and the flying pigs or the dirty rat, the twist. I mean, when did you decide that that's how we want to present Anniversario? Because it's obviously not how H99 is being sold.
When the samples come back to Miami, obviously I smoke them with my team in Nicaragua. Then we bring the samples down to Miami, all the guys in the office, and then we just brainstorm. How could we make it better? How could the packaging be? What could we make different? So we just, it just goes, evolving.
We knew we didn't want to have like a normal Parejo, though. You know what I mean? We knew that we wanted to do something unique and different. I think what was cool about putting not you can't really tell from the press release, but the Anniversario actually also has a shaggy foot, which is new for League as well.
Is it shaggy or is it just covered?
It's like an unfinished. It's basically depending what you
shaggy
call it, shaggy,
is like
unfinished.
the inch long. Let's make a mess in the ashtray.
Yeah, no.
I always describe that as it looks like a covered foot.
Covered
Or unfinished is
okay.
you're not clipping the end of it.
No.
Yeah.
No. So and that's cool because of the blast of flavor you get.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was the UF13 pre-release had that, but the regular one didn't.
It's slightly it's slightly. It's not the same head as the UF13.
It's not the same head as the UF13.
No, it looks very similar, but it's you'll see when you see the cigar.
Pictures.
Yeah.
All right. What's the obviously Liga 10, H99, the extensions? That's all like obviously our readers eating that up.
Sure.
What's the one cigar in the Drew Estate booth? And you can include Joya if you want to. Well, let's not include Joya because there's a lot of options in Debonair. But what's the one cigar in the rest of it for you that's going to get slept on at the trade show, and what's it for you?
Slept on meaning it's not going to get the attention it's due?
That's due. And like I wouldn't mind like a specific size if you got one, but like out of the rest of the non-Liga stuff, what's the one thing that's going to get overlooked in Liga?
Right, I got two answers.
Okay, well that's not what I.
For half-wheel readers, Isla del Sol.
Yeah.
Right. That's not one that's going to like break the internet. That anyone's going to get excited about, but I think that's going to do a lot better than most people predict. But for me, my favorite cigar at the show is Herrera Miami. Quite honestly, even
Which
with
size?
I like the Torpedo, the Pyramid Fino, but it's more of a Cuban style pyramid. So that's my favorite. That's my favorite release at the show.
For you, Willy?
And oddly enough, man, with the Miami, I'm gonna go with the Toro. I know, for me the Lonsdale, that's for the regular Herrera Esteli, that's my go-to every day. And for this is the Toro. Toro just smokes unbelievable in this blend.
All right, we got a couple last-minute questions coming in. Somebody wants to know, is any chance of the Shady coming back?
Stay tuned.
That wasn't from Paul Rosenberg.
No.
He does occasionally read. Occasionally retweets it. It's a good day when he retweets at the Yahe.
Paul's a cigar guy.
He's a cigar nerd. He's a cigar nerd and a great guy. Somebody wants to know what % of Drew Estate cigars are from the U.S. are using stock cut wrappers versus non-stock cut wrappers.
Well, all of the Liga's stock cut.
Yeah.
Everything. Liga
So all
9,
are you using any other Connecticut-grown tobacco anywhere else?
Yeah, Underground, Maduro.
But that's all stock cut?
Yeah, technically Nica Rustica is stock cut as well. When you think through the value chain, I mean, you talked about on one of your shows, the value chain of the leaf. I think you were talking about the bottom leaves in one of the shows. But,
Yeah.
But yeah, of course, any plant we buy from Connecticut is basically stock cut.
Right.
Just
All right.
bottom line.
Thank you guys.
Thank you
for stopping by. I know you guys are super busy. Thank you, obviously, for bombarding our readers with Drew Estate ads over the last 2 days and the prizes. Any word on what's going on in the booth?
Totally.
There have been some leaks, but is there an
leaks.
official confirmation of what's in the booth?
Street signs.
What is going on? Okay. Brooks is like, I'm like, I interpret that. You got to do this. You got to.
Yeah.
All right. So what's street signs?
Street signs.
You guys tweeted, you guys hinted at that a little bit.
We hinted at it.
All right.
Teased.
So our readers, if you were one of the 5 that won the contest, you're getting a custom painted street sign.
Yes, and this contest now.
And the contest now.
Yeah.
And if you're a retailer, you come in, you place an order, you don't get in a fist fight over a Liga Privada.
Correct.
You might get a street sign as well.
Correct.
All right, Sam and Willy, thank you for stopping by.
Thank
I'm
you,
gonna
man.
Figure out whatever the chaos that Brooks just threw at me. What was that?
Good luck.
Yeah, let's have Pete on. Yeah, can you grab the chair? Oh. Oh yeah, pity you. We're live, by the way.
Oh, thanks, Charlie. I appreciate
Do you
that.
want to? Can you move yourself a little bit more centered? There you go. And if you want to move we're gonna get uncomfortably close to you and that microphone.
Like
all right.
this?
So yeah, like that. Because we have all this noise around it. It just sounds.
Can
like
you actually hear what I'm saying?
I can't hear what
Oh,
you're
yeah,
saying
because
No,
they can.
They can. Yeah. So.
Hey, how are you, Patrick?
So, potentially the last scheduled guest. It's unclear. We may have another grumpy. Not a you or grumpy, but we have a grumpy Dion stop by. It sounds like, but.
Dion. Well, if Grumpy Dion comes, have him sit down with me. This will be fun.
Yeah, but I don't think he's not going to be here till later, and you have to go. So you have to go to the hand roll movie.
Well, yeah, but I haven't been in my booth all day.
Why do you need to do that? Are you here to sell cigars or premiere a movie?
No, meaning like I actually want to be in the booth to actually help a little bit, but the guys have it covered. So
all right. So I promised the other day I would not talk to you about 15th anniversary. So we're not going to talk because the issue is that we've only got you for a little bit of time, and I think everyone's going to ask you.
What do you want to know, though?
No, we got some questions for you.
All right, good.
All right, so have you...
Shoot.
Yeah, so the first question, and the one that I personally want to know, now that Ronaldo has left Real Madrid, are you switching teams?
No. Real Madrid, will always be a
But are you going to root
favorite
for Juventus? Obviously, you only see them in the Champions League.
You know, for me, I actually will root for Juventus. I want to actually now go to Torino and see a game against Real Madrid. I'm actually a little sad that Buffon is retired. Well, now he's with Paris Saint-Germain, right?
Yeah,
but
he's got at some point he's got to stop.
Oh no, absolutely. It was 46 years old or something like that. But it would have been cool to see him play now that I have a reason to go see Juventus play.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah.
All right, so
plus there's a 3-star Michelin restaurant in Torino
one?
that I want to go to. Massimo, the guy Massimo.
Yeah,
that
he's
fixed
now the number
Parmesan
one on
cheese.
the San Pellegrino list. All right, so now that we've dealt with
I did not know
European
that.
food and European football, which I'm sure our readers loved,
Yeah,
we can talk about cigars. So you told me, which is something that we publicized to some degree, that Monster Series, you don't have any specific plans, certainly anyone that you're ready. Oh, no, there's no point. You know why? So I mentioned this earlier, but the reason why I'm wearing the hoodie is not because, I was in a T-shirt earlier, but my hands started, my arm was
Like
sticking
this?
to the
Yeah, like
tablecloth,
this.
and so I was afraid at some point I was just going to lift it up and it was going to go over. So
All right, sorry.
it's awful. Last year, if we had done this, apparently the AC would have already been on, but this year, not so much.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you mentioned to me that Monster Series likely will continue beyond the samplers that are already out in some form or
Yeah,
fashion.
the Monster Series isn't dying. There's going to be a
Well, they're already
hiatus.
dead. They just come back.
Well, yeah. There's going to be a hiatus in between, but I'm going to rotate back through the cycle again.
Have you told your reps that? And if so, can you?
I've told most of my reps
Instagram live?
everything like. No.
Their faces.
They don't look at Instagram. What are you talking about?
Yeah, no, but for me, just send it the video. We'll put it up on halfwheel.
You know, it's funny. I think one of my reps said, he goes, "Yeah, I saw that cigar." I go, "How'd you see it? You're not on social media." I go, "People send me pictures of halfwheel."
It's good. We get
That
pages.
was kind of funny.
It's not great, but yeah. So the Monster Series, there will be something.
Yeah, I have something planned for next year.
Brooks is sitting there like, Actor Series coming back?
Possibly.
Don't say that. Don't start that again.
No.
We'll have to go down a little long.
Well, dude, Brooks, you nailed it.
You want me to put the list out?
But it will not be called that name. Sorry, it will not be called that name unless I get permission from Jeff Borshwitz.
I would just like to point out that Brooks did not ask me that, but that's what he would say.
It
I
might
know
be
him
called
well
the
enough
Karloff instead.
to say why. I like that name. All right, you have a cigar. It is.
Yeah, Christoph might not like it though.
Neither. Not my.
I'll ask Glenn.
Not my circus. You have a cigar that you took a picture of that you had mentioned may or may not be at the trade show. Is it here?
The Grand Cazador?
Or no, not the Grand Cazador, the Grand Tatuaje.
I took a picture of both of them. Oh, that won't help.
So let's start. Let's start with the Grand Tatuaje.
But thank you. The free water from Halfwheel.
So you have a cigar that you took a picture of. It looks like an RC233 because
Halfwheel only drinks Aquafina.
My mother used to work for PepsiCo.
Really?
Yeah, she did. Not in the water
Okay,
division.
sorry.
Okay, so you took a picture of a gigantic Perfecto.
Yep.
That was not RC233.
Nope.
Is that cigar here? Or is it going to be
Yes,
sold here, I guess is the better question.
It's packaged incorrectly, but it is here.
All right, so that cigar is the Grand Tatuaje. We can
Yes.
reveal that for our readers. Not a cheap cigar?
No.
So what's the finalized price point?
No finalized price, but it will be...
North of 40?
More than 50.
Okay.
If
We
not,
actually-
just at 50.
We're going to do a post because it's one of those things that I think is good clickbait of the most expensive cigars that debut here. So that'll probably make the list.
Okay.
It won't be number one because Daniel Marshall's got the koi fish cigar. $1,000 a piece.
Wow, really?
It's $999. It's a cigar wrapped in gold with a koi fish hand-painted on it in edible ink.
Well, who's the artist?
He didn't name it. It's some guy, like the press release said, like some guy that...
It's not Hiro Yamagata?
No, it's a German dude. He
Oh.
took a picture of the guy, but he didn't give me the name.
Interesting.
All right, so you mentioned Grand Cazadores.
Grand Cazador. I have, like, some to smoke. But
All right, so
yeah.
Brooks is going to shake you down on the way out. Are you selling it?
Maybe not.
Okay. But maybe.
And I'll tell you that Petit Église and Clos L'Église...
I know.
No, hold on.
You're full shit.
No. Petit Église and Clos L'Église are now officially Miami-made. And
But still
they,
not shipping.
No, and they will be not for European only. Originally, it was going to be made for Europe.
No. False.
Oh, no.
Originally
it was
going to be an
gonna
event cigar.
It was going to be an event cigar. I just, over the years, I've never been...
Able to finish it?
Finish it.
Yeah.
Like everything, including the packaging, everything. So I kind of, this year, honestly, I started recognizing what I did 15 years ago and started realizing those were the best times of my life because things were so much more simpler.
Yeah, you had one factory in Miami.
And I'm going, and that's why everything's being made in Miami.
Well, you can't go back there. It's not that big of a factory. I guess
No, and
they could expand it.
honestly, all we're doing is shifting production. We're not expanding production. We're just shifting production.
All right. We're getting questions coming in. So,
All right. I'm here. I have a little bit of time.
You're here. Unfortunately, we'll get into it later. But unfortunately, I'm going to need to leave at some point because I've been behind this chair and for like 3.5 hours. Yeah, I need to use the bathroom, and that one doesn't work. And apparently, I don't.
The other bathroom's near us.
According to Brian Burt, the other bathroom was also not really working, but that one's not open. Okay, so somebody wants to know any chance of a Candela wrapper in the near future from you? The Garcias have never done Candela, have they?
The Garcias have never done Candela. Pepina's asked me if I ever wanted Candela. I don't know. I think Dion does it great. I don't need to touch on that.
Somebody says any chance of the Monster Series getting a PCR treatment?
I'm sorry.
Any chance of the Monster Series getting a PCR treatment? I don't know what.
Oh, meaning like PCR sizes?
I guess so.
The Petit Cazador Reserva. That'd be weird.
Yeah. All right.
That'd be really kind of odd.
Yeah.
I guess 10 different blends
No.
and little PCRs, yeah.
No would be the answer to that question.
Probably no, sorry.
Are you creating as planned or holding off at all because of the FDA issues?
Creating as planned.
Okay. Any chance?
Actually, I am holding, sorry. I am holding some things that we have done in the past for future releases because I didn't want to just say, hey, I got to do it all this year.
Yeah.
We have a few more years, so we have a little bit of room. As far as releasing stuff that's not predicate.
All right.
But still.
Any
within that.
chance that we can get the M80s re-released?
You might see a twist on the M80 next
Like
year.
a thermonuclear?
No. Well,
grandfather?
no, yeah, no. You might see a twist on the M80.
Oh,
that
man.
it might have a relationship with a very angry monster,
Monique gets
like
question.
Jason in Fireworks.
All right. Monique gets question of the day. She wants to know, is there any extension news on the Fausto line? So where's the Italian Fausto?
Okay, so the extensions on the Fausto line, nothing for the United States
But
as
there is
of
one
yet.
coming for Italy.
But there is one coming for Italy.
Slash all of Europe or just Italy? Or Italy to
No,
start?
just
maybe?
Italy.
Okay.
It's called the LV or VL 551 El Italia or something like that. I don't.
All right.
It looks like it has the same band that we use on the Mexican Experiment. It just happens to be the same colors as Italy, which made it easy. 10
10-count box. If you remember the slide 10-count box for the pre-release of Fausto,
Yeah.
it's pretty much kind of like that.
That was what, one size or two sizes?
One size.
For Federal and Hawaii, right?
Well, Federal got some of them, but it was mostly for Hawaii. We also did, that was the La
And then
Dueña
Mark
launch.
adjusted the samplers.
Yeah. So that one's coming. We're having an issue with the registration website to register the brand.
Welcome to Italy.
Yeah.
Welcome to selling tobacco in Italy.
Yeah.
All right.
The monopoly.
One last question. It's the gold flex on the broadleaf. I know we've talked about this at length. I know you've mentioned it before.
Yeah, the bands don't make the gold flex. It's the soil. Yeah. It used to be people thought that the bands, the gold
it's
dusting.
One farm, right? Or two? Or
One particular farm from a family up in Connecticut on the Massachusetts border. They just have a high mineral content. I've since have seen that gold dusting in a lot of other people's broadleaf, so it must just be the region in general. But it's part of the soil.
All right, Pete. I'm getting uncomfortable back here, so we're going to cut this off early. Brian and Patrick are going
Does
to
it look like he needs to use the bathroom?
I've been back here for 3.5 hours, sweating my ass off.
I see him dancing in his seat.
Well, I was supposed to have. That's why I asked you if you could come at 2:30, because then I was going to go to the bathroom and come back. But we're not here. I don't know. So Patrick and Brian are going to come here. If you want to, I guess they can maybe take over. And
Yeah, sure. I'll get out of your way.
Sweet.
I got some time, so have fun running to the bathroom wherever you might find it. Bruce doesn't want me on film. I was told not.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I was going that way. Sorry. Here.
Where you going? Oh.
All right, so we got.
You put this in the middle, or are you just kind of there for viewing pleasure?
Oh, so we get all seated. God, this seat is. Whoo, doggy. All right.
That's awesome that Charlie was squirming in his seat.
This has been one of the
toughest.
Like, do you remember Growing Pains as a kid?
Yeah, I loved it.
No, not the show. Like when you woke up and your knees hurt because you'd grown like 2 inches overnight. Do you kind of remember that?
Yeah.
Or like, and you put your pants on, and they were like that much shorter than.
Yeah, you couldn't figure out why.
Yeah.
Mom, there's something wrong with me.
Right.
Why is my voice changing?
This may be a half-wheel Growing Pains day.
Oh,
it's that kind of a day.
So is this live?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Hey, live.
Yeah.
Even if just the smallest thing of AC was working, I think that it would have been a completely different broadcast.
We actually had to move 30 rows of tables and chairs at the hall where we're premiering the film because they put every row 7 feet apart. And by the time you got to the back, all you heard was, and you're like, yeah, that's exactly how a movie should sound. Well, there's still too much room, but we gained 14 yards of, and in the back you can hear it. There's a great center point of the theater or the hall that is a giant acoustic bomb.
Well, that's the other after. I mean, you obviously. I heard you were in music once.
Well, yeah.
You know, like there's rooms that are really built for sound.
Oh yeah.
And then there's rooms like where the sound guy is. And if you're the nerd, you go and stand by the sound guy's booth because that's like the sweet spot in the room.
Yeah.
And then there's rooms that might as well be all glass and metal because everything just reverberates all over the place.
Yeah, it's a mess. So, I mean, you can hear it. Like a couple people that happen to be in the room while we were trying to get levels decent.
Sure.
So you could actually hear it in the back correctly and not be like, okay, that's. People sitting in like the first row are like, oh, it's too loud. I'm like, don't sit here.
Right.
Pretty simple. Don't sit here.
So I know we've talked a little bit about hand roll. People have started to see some things come out about it.
Yeah.
I saw a cigar with a band on it that said half roll or hand roll.
Yeah, it's a ratio, the Tatuaje ratio made in Miami.
Okay.
The cigars were going to actually be, they were going to be something else shipped in from Nicaragua. So I had Cigar Rings print me a very simple band that said hand roll, the film about cigars. to be banded in Nicaragua and then shipped to the United States, and then Nicaragua happened.
Right.
And I kindly asked Maria and Albert to reprint them again in the Dominican Republic and send them to Miami. And that's when Yanni said, well, I have some Regios in inventory, so we'll just ban some Regios with the handle. So it's a Regio.
So, I'm sorry, there was supposed to be a separate cigar for this? Or
No.
Okay.
There was just going to be another one of my lines with the secondary band. That's it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was nothing specially made for the premiere. It's just a way to, have a commemorative cigar for the premiere.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about this movie, there have been movies made involving the cigar industry.
Yeah.
There have been shorter documentaries.
Yeah,
there's
James
been promotional
Suckling.
pieces. There's been documentaries. There's been.
So James Suckling did a nice one where he took everybody through Cuba in like a small period of time and showed everybody like the start to finish and what makes Cuban cigars great and what makes the history great. It was decently well done. I know James really well, and I know the guy who directed it, James Orr. The other documentary that's been out that's now on Amazon Prime for free is The Prince of Smoke, which is about Hiroshi. It's a good, decently well done story, but I don't know. There's not much there.
Well,
I'm not sure what it's trying to tell me.
It's shorter than I was expecting too. And
What's great about it is we have Hiroshi in this documentary,
right,
and his dad in this documentary. Of course, not the grandfather, but he wasn't in that one either.
Sure.
What I like about this is Hiroshi's information and his dad's information in this really tie together a lot of stuff, because there's a lot of things that people just don't know about the industry, or they think they know about the industry, and a lot of it's being told in this documentary.
So give me an example of that. I mean, so
like a lot of people don't know about the connection
trailer
between the
voice, what is it?
Placencias and the Robina family, and Hiroshi goes into it, and then there's the Placencias talking about the connections. A lot of people don't know that there was during the boom days there was like a war going on in the Dominican Republic to steal rollers. Like a lot of people don't know this, so there's a lot of stuff that it's an educational piece, and I hope the message comes across. I've even listening to some of the stuff, I learned things, and I thought I knew pretty much everything about this industry for the last 25 years.
Well, I think if anything, that's a pretty good endorsement right there.
I mean, like when I was listening to Daniel Marshall, so Daniel Marshall's in the film, and to listen, I was in the room while he was telling his stories, and I was like, oh my God, Daniel Marshall's a badass. And I've known Daniel for 25 years, but I never heard him tell the stories like he told on the film. A lot of this film didn't get used, but you're talking about hundreds of hours of film that gets cut down to an hour and a half.
Absolutely right.
There's a few things that I regret about the whole filming process. There's a few people that I wish we would have gotten on film, and one of them was Julio Aroa, Christian's dad.
Okay.
Because Julio was mentioned by John Oliva Sr.
Okay.
So, and Julio is one of the pioneers. He's one of those guys that started a lot. And so if this becomes something, and there's ever a chance to do a docuseries of characters or individuals in this industry, I need Julio Aroa. I need George Brightman. I need people that have been through it all, that know the histories and that know the stories, because there's a lot of those stories. I mean, dude, there's stories that George Padron's telling, then all of a sudden you see Martínez Cuenca talking about the same thing, and you're like, how did it happen that they were talking exactly about the same story?
Gotcha.
There's a great story that Robina says in the Prince of Smoke about his grandfather, and he tells the story in this documentary. So there's fun things.
Who else would you say, from a historical perspective?
Historical, like Benji,
yeah,
while he's still around. Like there's a lot of the old guys passed. Frankie Neza is
and
gone.
that's my point. I mean, it's to say, like,
Benji would be. I mean, we have great people. We have Henky Kellner. We have Eladio. There's a lot of great people. There's already a ton of great people, but then we're missing a guy like Julio Aroa.
Right.
That's like one regret I got.
And what's the not to totally set it? What's the runtime on the movie?
An hour and a half.
Hour and a half.
Yeah.
So somebody goes and sees it.
It was edited again yesterday.
Oh, really?
There was a line in the documentary that someone didn't want to be heard.
Okay.
And they had to literally change it.
So if you're talking to not necessarily even the average Tatuaje smoker, but just the average cigar smoker that you're going to run into in a shop,
yeah,
and you're going to ask them for 90 minutes of their time about
it's tough.
No, I mean about the cigar industry,
yeah,
or whatever falls under this banner of hand rolled.
I think they need to look at it as more of an educational piece. It's an art craft. You know, it's a culture. Dude, I spent 9 hours watching Wild Wild Country about the crazy guru that went up to Oregon and took over a whole town.
Right.
I spent 30 hours watching Chef's Table. It's an art form, and I think people need to look at it as an art form.
Sure.
And there's a lot of great stories, and there's a cool, funny middle segment about everybody's first cigar.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting how people got sick off of their first cigar.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably a fairly. I mean, even
and some of the greatest people in the industry too.
Oh,
like Eladio. It's kind of cool.
Is there like is there a 5 second or 5 10?
No, you got to watch it because everybody. I mean, even when Pepin says, "Yeah, my grandmother smacked it out of my mouth," it's like he just brightens up with a smile and you just laugh. I mean, there's you had that because there's so much drama in the film.
Sure.
Because it's all about how Castro took over Cuba and what happened to the cigar industry when Castro came in. And if you think about it, there wouldn't be Honduras. There wouldn't be the Dominican Republic. There wouldn't be Nicaragua. It would still be Cuba.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the things I think when you dig in a little bit and you start doing even a cursory level of research about how stuff, like people think stuff just moved.
No.
It's not that it just moved. They had to move.
The directors did a good job, really good job with writing the story for it.
Right.
And the story's changed a lot over time. But, I mean, there's a lot of things that people don't understand about how the cigar. One of the best, the one of the most interesting quotes in the documentary, though, is Fidel Castro says to a news reporter, "Mark my words, this will be the last dictator for Cuba ever." And of course, he became the dictator. So it's like, he was talking about Batista. So there's a lot of history there.
Well,
so it's not just a cigar documentary; it's a history lesson.
And that's the thing. I think a lot of things. Obviously, I work in the baseball world, and that one of my favorite classes in college was how baseball lined up with American society in terms of race relations, women in the labor force, the westward expansion. I mean, all these different things. And you go like. You may think it's just baseball. You may think it's just cigars.
No,
everything is a mirror of something else. It may not be pointed at the exact same angle, but there's a mirror there.
Yeah, it's a history lesson. Baseball is a history lesson because you talk about war, you talk about everything, race, you talk about women's, everything. Same thing with the cigars. You talk about the Fidel Castro. You talk about the Nicaraguan problems. You talk about, there's a little bit of everything, and it's hard to fit in an hour and a half, but I think the directors did a good job.
Well, I think what you said about creating it into a docuseries would be...
Oh, I would love to say, there's an hour just on Opus X,
Sure.
I think that would certainly appeal more to the cigar nerds.
I would say I like beg the guys, though. You know what an executive producer does? He writes checks. That's it.
Right. Yeah.
I wrote a lot of checks.
Okay.
There's no creative control, but I begged them to keep. Manolo Casado had the first line in the first version I saw. I said, please keep that as the first line because he leads it in and makes it a mystery of like, wow, where is it? He's the guy with the fishing pole doing this.
Sure.
And the way Manolo is, it's just, I think he's awesome.
Sure, that's awesome.
There are subtitles for a lot of guys though. we can, Henrik Kellner, Henke has subtitles.
Yeah.
Hochi Blanco has subtitles.
Doesn't matter what language he's speaking sometimes. I know Charlie needs to get back in here, so Brian, can you and Charlie switch? I'm going to have you stay. But while Charlie's sitting down...
You may go there?
No, Charlie's going to sit right there, because it's going to be... That may not be the easiest thing in the world. Can you sit
We can
right
do
there?
it. This is musical chairs.
Okay. But, so...
I'm going to stand up for a second.
Yeah, please do.
Let him get by.
This is going to be interesting, because I want you to sit back down.
Yeah.
And actually, maybe I will have you go to that second chair.
Okay. That work?
Yeah. Just because I want, given how interesting this movie is, welcome to live Facebooking. How do people see it? I mean, it premieres today. What's the next step?
The premiere. I mean, listen, we're in a giant hall that wasn't built to show a movie. It's not going to sound great towards the back of the room. It might be too loud for some people at the front of the room. Somehow they put bigger screens in the CAO party than they did in the movie premiere. So it's not going to be perfect, but after that, the whole goal for the directors is they want to go towards film festivals.
Okay.
And then the goal is to campaign to get it on Netflix.
Nice.
Netflix is tough.
Sure.
You have to have a little celebrity, so we got a couple people that are a little bit of celebrities, and we got Peter Weller, my friend, who's the narrator, the guy who played RoboCop.
Mm-hmm.
He's the narrator. No.
Patrick, why don't you swap mics?
It says it's working.
Check level 3.
How about now?
We just got to get through 5 more minutes.
All right. So I was saying that Peter Weller, who played RoboCop, is the narrator of the film. Jimmy Jackson, who was an NBA All-Star and basketball player for many years, is in the documentary. He's got a couple of great lines, actually. A guy that I always forget his name, but last name Burns. He's one of P. Diddy's guys that works with him for branding. But really, the celebrities are the guys in the industry, and you see a human factor with these guys. I'm hoping that the human factor comes across, and it's not a documentary about, rich guys smoking $100 bills. It's a documentary about teaching culture and history about how an industry came about once, a big world change happened. Worst case scenario, you can always throw it up on Amazon. So, and listen, I don't think either me or the guys are looking to recoup any money. I did it as a passion project because to me the industry is the best thing I've ever had in my life, aside from my beautiful partner Yanni Garcia. I always have to mention that. This industry made me become a better person, and it made me grow up to be a man and not a kid anymore.
We have a quick second. You need to wrap up? Or?
Your mic's not on.
Brooks, can you look at mic level 3, please?
You want to share the mic?
Just so what's funny is because there's a saying that my uncle has, and I don't know if he got it or where he got it from, but he talks about when you do something in life, there's 3 phases, and there's learning, there's earning, and there's returning. When you said that made me think this is Pete's this is Pete's returning phase to the industry. Is that true? Would you feel that way?
Yeah, you know what? I put in my little bit of money to the CRA and to the legal funds and stuff like that. I'm not the guy that they need up there on Capitol Hill, so I always feel very self-conscious about getting invites to go meet senators and congressmen. I'm not sure if I'm that guy. I'm the guy that cracks the joke in the room that they might not get.
Sure.
Trust me, I had a very cold room today with General Cigars. Well, CI, sorry, but
I was gonna say exclusive. Did we just get
no? No, they just wanted to go over the show deals. But yeah, 2 years ago when these guys walked in my booth, actually they were scared to come in my booth. I actually was standing on the edge of my booth, and they're like, "Hey, do we have a second to talk to you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And they're like, "We're trying to do this film about cigars," and I said, "Cool." I think they had a little pamphlet of it, and they had a trailer. And I said, "Well, if you're willing to look at a few documentaries that I've been watching lately that I think educate people about an industry, instead of just making it so dramatical about, oh, the FDA is going to end the world," I said, "I'm in." I didn't realize how big I'd have to get in, but every time I would see new footage, I would cut them a new check, because I think this could be potentially the best commercial for our industry to show people that we're a history lesson and not a cigarette industry. I don't know. This industry deserves better. So
really.
All right. So
sap, dude.
You have to go to your booth and then a premiere very quickly. So
yeah, I have a little bit of time.
I've
They don't start
sweated through my jeans once already today. So for many years, yeah, that's not great. So for many years, we've been having there's many lingering to-dos, much like La Petite Iglesia, on our list of things to do. One of them has been to find a way to create something to give to people who win Cigar of the Year for us. So Patrick's going to get on his knees, and we're going to go for it.
Really? He's going to, hand me the...
So, it's not there. It's over here. I have it. Yeah. Well, I'm going to introduce it first. So, or you're going to... Okay, so now...
Is it a Borussia Dortmund jersey?
That would have been better. Number one.
Yeah. No, I was actually... I wear black and yellow.
Yeah. So, you can give it to him.
Is it the Blonde Dior?
It's not.
Oh, very cool.
So,
oh, that's awesome.
Nick out in Georgia created these for us. We originally wanted them in wood because we wanted something that was a bit different than everyone else's cigar trophy.
I love it.
And so you are the second one to get theirs. If Dion stopped by,
If
Dion stopped by, he might get his. But anyway,
if he stops by?
he's not
Dion
stopping
here?
by. No, he's not stopping by. So anyway,
They're just texting angrily.
So that is
I
for
love it. Thank you.
that is for 2 years ago.
Yep.
Or almost 3 years now for Tatuaje, the TAA.
Yep.
Which I think to this day might be the best broadleaf cigar you've made, or it's at least in the conversation of the top 2 or 3, which is crazy to think about, particularly considering where you were in 2010 with Pork Tenderloin and the Barkley Rex, and then
I still think the Barkley Rex.
I think
was
most
special.
people. I will say the Burt. I will say the one thing about the TAA that I think those other 2 cigars have not been able to sustain is that the TAA, and obviously we haven't gotten that far down the age curve yet.
Yeah.
But even now, what on earth is Brian Burt doing? Even now, the TAA is still smoking very well, and I'm not like the Barkley Rex was up and down. The Tenderloin went up, and then it sort of has gone down. The TA seems like it might stick around for a little bit longer. Certainly not what it was when it first came out. It's obviously a different flavor profile, but it's still a very, very enjoyable cigar a few years later, which is, as you very well know, tough to do with broadleaf.
Broadleaf right now is ups and downs all the time.
Well,
so.
and you're blending the cigar to smoke a certain way, and you're not blending it to smoke 5 years from now. So it's tough. I mean, some of the cigars you are.
Is that a fair assessment?
Well, I mean, you want
Levante. You're clearly blending
the
it.
cigar itself, for me, and everybody's got their own opinion, but I got to have the blend inside perfect before I even put the wrapper on. The wrapper's just going to make it that much more special. When I do a lot of cigars, that's really how it happens, and then the wrapper is the finishing touch, and that's where, oh shit, that blend doesn't work with that wrapper.
Okay.
Stuff like that.
Okay.
It's not every day is perfect in the factory. I found some mistakes last year with the broadleaf collection that we've corrected. That there was
Can I see that?
a tobacco that was I would almost say, and I actually caught it myself. I opened up a cigar and I pinpointed the problem, but there was a tobacco that here's the process. Pepino and Jaime aren't going to see everything. They're not in the factory doing that type of work every day. They're counting on their employees, but once their employees touch it, they have to go to the blending guys, and the blending guys don't catch it. They're going to give it to the roller, and the UC rollers roll. They roll so fast, they don't catch it.
Right.
So next thing you know, you got a small batch of cigars that's got overly aggressive, almost like dead tobacco that will, the vein of the center veins of those cigars or those tobaccos will actually burst into flames quicker and cause a more high spice note that totally throws off the cigar.
So I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
There was something wrong with some of the broadleaf collection.
Well, so, dude, when you guys rated one of the cigars 74 points or 72 or whatever it was, I went straight to the factory and literally went through all the sizes.
Right.
I got the later portion of the run, so the ones I was smoking, I was
stuff
like,
was out.
they're not there.
Right.
Something in some of the sizes, not all of them, some of the sizes.
And that was the thing.
Unico was one of them.
That was the
but
thing.
we fixed it.
Because like I would talk to people and they either look at you like, you are absolutely nuts. This cigar is perfect.
To
or,
most people, they wouldn't taste it, but to me,
like,
I
don't know
it's just
what's
wrong.
going on there.
Yeah, if you tried the ones I tasted after you guys gave the rating, I was
Right.
like, I don't see the problem. So I actually started digging into the samplers because I kept a couple back.
Right.
And I was like, okay, yeah, it's a little bit higher note spice, like aggressive spice, and so we corrected it. But I mean, it's hard to go back in time.
Sure.
If I could, I would. I mean, shit. Alls I know that it could have been 5,000 cigars.
Well, and that was the thing is that there was.
But most people who like high spice would be like, "Oh, this is the greatest thing in the world," and I got a lot of compliments. But for me, it didn't work.
Right, and I didn't seem to ever find consistency from like box to box or size to size or like retailer
The
one
reality
tells
is-
me it was everything's been great. Retailer 2 says this one's so and so here.
I never want shit to leave the factory. For me, when someone gets a bad cigar from the factory, not just from Tatuaje, from the factory, I go on the high defense.
Sure.
And I now want to find out what the problem is.
Sure.
Because I don't want it to happen to a Dom Pepin Blue.
Right.
I don't want it to happen to a La Roma de Cuba.
Right.
Because it is directly associated to a Tatuaje.
Right.
They are the
Well,
factory.
and it may be indicative of something else that's going on that needs to be pointed out.
Yeah. And I caught something. Maybe it was just like, hey, it was a couple bales of leaf that we're supposed to use this, right?
Right.
Well, no.
All right.
Don't use it. It's dead.
I will say that I appreciate hearing that. I think that we stress this. I certainly have written this a couple times a year at least. You know, none of us, the four of us that review cigars or reviewed, in the case of Brian Burt, enjoy smoking 3 samples consecutively on back-to-back-to-back nights,
Yeah.
or in days in Patrick's case, or mornings in Brooks's case, or nights in my case, of shitty cigar, shitty cigar, shitty cigar. And then I certainly don't enjoy sitting and pulling up a word editor and typing up a 1,000-word review of a cigar that I didn't like. And I certainly don't, not that it ever factors into it, but I don't enjoy then having to deal with the conversations of upsetting someone's day because they got a 74 or whatever it is. But I think so oftentimes the reaction is not, like, and obviously, like, we can sit on our high porch and say this, but the reaction needs to be like, I got a 74. The problem is not like Half-Wheel's out to get me, or whoever it is, Cigar Aficionado's out to get me, whatever publication it might be. The first reaction should always be, and it happens with us in the comment section, it should always be like, okay, like, let's see if the problem is legitimate. Let's see if anyone else is having this problem. And so many times the reaction is, these guys are out to get us. And I think that even in the work that we do, you know, when commenters say, like, oh, there's a typo or this doesn't make any sense, like, the reaction on our end is sometimes is not the right one. Sometimes it's to get combative, but it needs to start. Like, this morning I had the same comment. Like, there was someone that left a comment, was like, I think this article is misleading. I sat down before I replied back. I reread the article. It's like, I don't agree with this. I don't think there's anything that we can really do to help improve the context that we put this particular statement in. But the first step needs to be not go screw yourself. You don't know what you're talking about. And too oftentimes that is the response.
The first response from anybody is for sure on the defense.
And
there can't be anything wrong.
And we don't like.
But
I don't want someone
secretively. I'm still going to the factory and going. I got to figure out the problem
because the problem is.
But the first defense is like, you're wrong.
No one look. Like, we give criticism every day. And we had this conversation earlier on in Half-Wheel's history, and I said, look, we cannot get in fights with people trolling. We cannot get in fights with people complaining. We can't do that because if we can't take the criticism and if we can't respond to the criticism in a productive manner, then we shouldn't be giving it. And I think that it was and certainly when I started, that was not the case of how we did things, but or how Brooks did things. But we've certainly evolved. But I think that the industry is still lacking in that sense of like people smoke bad cigars. Like, you smoke bad cigars from other manufacturers. You smoke bad cigars from manufacturers that you have more respect for than probably yourself. But they still occasionally make bad cigars.
I've smoked bad cigars that were made for me in the factory. I watched them being, like, well, actually I didn't watch them being bunched, but I told them what I wanted in them, and And I walked back to the chief of production, and I took apart the cigar, and I said, there's a problem with this leaf.
No, I mean, and the simple fact is that...
But the reality is, we'll say, no, there's nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Because at the same time, I will be straight up, I got a lot of praise for a lot of the cigars, and then every once in a while, after the review, I got a lot of people that said,
well, it opened the door for
man,
people
this
to say,
really sucks. You know,
it gave them that
I take
excuse.
that to heart.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you and I both know if you want to make
I don't want shit.
If you want to make a consistently, like, it may not be the greatest tasting cigar, but if you want to make a cigar consistently start to finish, it's homogenized wrapper, homogenized binder. God knows what's in the filler, and it's made by a machine. Because at the end of the day, when it's not homogenized, when it's handmade, you have that issue. And you present themselves where it could be someone's having an off day, they could be getting in a fight with their girlfriend or their wife or both of them at the same time, or it could be like someone's making consistent mistakes and we need to address it. And too often times, or you could be this theory of like Patrick Lagreid and Brooks Whittington and Brian Burt and Charlie Minato are out to get you, and too often times it's not that approach. And it needs to be, because it ultimately it makes better cigars.
But Pina and Jaime would literally probably throw me into their pig farm if I was in the factory every day looking at every
look at
cigar.
Look at Tion. I mean, that's not really going well.
I mean, because the joke is that no cigars would leave the factory if I was actually standing above the rollers every day. I mean, only because, I know what's good. I see some rollers that I can't complain, and I see exactly what tobaccos they're using, but I can't see every piece of leaf. And the rollers don't, by the time it gets to the rollers, they're just grabbing piles. So... Right. It's rapid movement. We have to worry about them pulling the bales and then the blending guys looking at those bales and saying, this is good. Now we can blend with it.
All right. So, Brooks Whittington looked at me and thought that I was going to close this out, and then we didn't close it out. So I'm going to thank you. If you want to stick around, I have one thing to say. We're going to move the camera to you. Obviously, thank you for stopping by. Hope the trophy doesn't get stolen. Brooks Whittington, his first trade show was in 2011. Yep. And at that trade show, you were on a board at the IPCPR. And we were walking down to the Venetian, to the Sands Expo Center, and you happened to be walking, and we crossed paths. And you said, I just went to the meeting, and I just raised your rates. And the rates that you were referring to was the amount of money that it costs for bloggers to go to the trade show, because previous to that,
that's a true story, actually.
In 2010 and years prior to that. And then it got to a point where, as we mentioned earlier today, at one point there was very serious discussions going on amongst people that make decisions at the IPCPR trade show with the manufacturers and the retailers to have a discussion about, do you ban online media from attending this event? Because there were people that were very antiquated in their thinking that didn't see the value, and certainly online media has evolved a very long way since 2010. But you were important. You said, look, I think they should pay their fair share. I don't think they should be able to get in for free. There was much more trick-or-treating, I think, now or then versus what there is now.
Yeah,
there were people that were showing up that started a blog 2 months ago, which is what I did at IPCPR 2010, and then showed up to the trade show and were asking for free samples. I did not do so much of that, but it was a lot different. And you were one of the people that said, look, if we want these people to act responsibly, then we should treat them responsibly. But at the end of the day, we should always value them, because that is the future. That is where the growth is going to be, and they are providing service and free advertising for this event. And it might have been shitty in 2010 or 2011, but I think collectively, not just with Half-Wheel, it's gotten a lot better. I thank you for your tenure on the board when you did not let them go down that rabbit hole of banning us from the trade show.
You remember when I was on that board, they didn't know what social media was.
That was the TA. That was a different time.
Well, that's true, too.
But no, I do thank you, because without you and some other people saying, look, this is not a discussion that we should be having. We should not be entertaining the idea of kicking out media from a trade show, no matter how amateur hour it might be. Because
if the dues for media are X, that's the dues for media.
But I do thank you. And I thank you, obviously, for your support of Half-Wheel and even the predecessors of Half-Wheel, with all 3 of us, or 4 of us, I guess.
We've had our best and worst times.
We have. And
hey, listen, I will tell you that in the documentary there is no mention of media except for Marvin.
As there should be. I mean, Marvin...
The fact that they got Marvin on film is pretty impressive.
No.
But, so there's no media in there, but this is, again, this
Cigar
could be...
Vixen in there?
She is, but they don't really go into her having.
But she's still in it, though.
She's in it about the culture of it. There's a lot of segments about the culture of the industry and the people in the industry, but there's no real mention about I'm a journalist and this is what I do, and that would be actually, as far as the docuseries go, the media portion for a docuseries would be awesome.
No,
because the cross dynamic between all the online media and just the everyday Joe blogger or the guy that does only Instagram, it'd be kind of funny to see all those opinions cross through.
There's a lot of things. We got to find an audience. So. All right, Pete, I thank you for stopping by.
Thanks, man.
Have fun at your booth. Good luck at the documentary.
Thank
hopefully
you.
it goes better than the start of this does, and hopefully the air conditioning stays on for all of it.
No, the air conditioning is on.
Yeah.
But again, sit
All right.
in the middle of the room.
So, Pete Johnson's going to leave. Patrick, if you want to just stay there for a second.
Oh, you want me to stay here?
No, you can go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, guys.
So, thank you for the people that have tuned in on Facebook and on YouTube and to some degree on Instagram.
Congratulations.
This has been an experiment. I don't know exactly what it's looked like because I've been with one notable exception, have been behind the chair sweating my ass off. But I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope even if you're not watching live that you find some of this 3.5 hours enjoyable. We certainly put a lot of work and quite a bit of money and a lot of sweat unintentionally into this. Our goal is to bring you closer to this trade show, but also to allow you to interact with people like Pete and the other, I guess, not 8 companies that were represented throughout. So I thank you for tuning in and asking questions. We'll be back tomorrow morning if it's Pacific time. It will be midday if you're on the East Coast. So we'll have Davidoff on tomorrow, and we'll have a sort of 25-minute show with them before the trade show kicks off on Saturday. On Sunday, at roughly the same times, all of them are posted on the website and on Facebook and YouTube. We will have Drew Newman from J.C. Newman Cigar Company. He'll be here to talk about the American and whatever else J.C. Newman's got going on. It's, for me, personally, one of the most fascinating projects that we're going to see at the trade show. I thought he'd be a perfect guest, not for the shorter, although with the exception of Pete, for relatively short segments, so we'll have Drew on for a little bit longer. And then on Monday, which is the third day of the trade show, we'll have John Huber from Crown Heads on. I don't know if Mike Condor's going to stop by, but perhaps both of them. If not, at the very least, John Huber will be by. They've got some new cigars. And I'm sure he'll have some hats to give us because they have the best hats in the industry, far and away. And so I'm sure there'll be some hats to give away or for Brian to wear or something. Who knows? I do want to say there's a lot of people. You've seen a couple of them. You haven't seen all of them. They're working behind the scenes, not just with us, with Brian and Brooks and Patrick and Heather. But there's also been a lot of other people that have been involved in trying to get this done. I've mentioned this twice now, both with the IPCPR and Pete. This is a long way. I was on the trade show floor when Jerry Cruz was being chased around in a golf cart, and while it was funny, it did highlight a lot of the problems that were on. It highlighted a lot of the antagonistic behaviors between the manufacturers and the retailers and the IPCPR and with their relationship with media, and not really understanding what our goals were, and we certainly made some mistakes along the way. But we've come a long way, and without the IPCPR support, none of this would have happened. They have come to us many years and said, what can we do to make the trade show easier for you? I've given them some suggestions which they've not listened to about free labor and things like that, and air conditioning will definitely be on it for next year. But they have been willing to let us onto the trade show floor earlier and pay thousands of dollars for internet and walls and overpriced furniture. They've also been willing to let us entertain ideas about other things that you haven't seen yet and maybe won't ever see. And so they have been extremely proactive, which is a dramatic shift from where they are. I think that we've advanced a lot in terms of the quality of work, not just with Half-Wheel, but with media collectively, and particularly with online media. But they've also advanced a lot in their thinking, and they have been very supportive of us trying to cover this event. And I don't think we would be able to cover it in the manner that we do without them. And that's for you, and we put a lot of work into it, but the goal is for you to feel like you're at the trade show. And so if history is any indication, for the next 4 days, we will be covering a lot of booths from people you've heard of, people you haven't heard of. We will be doing it with pictures, with text, with video. We'll be having some other new features as well. We'll be giving away some stuff. Drew Estate's been the pre-show sponsor. They've given away a lot of, apparently, street signs that have been custom painted. Tomorrow starts Davidoff is once again sponsoring it. There'll be items we'll be giving items away the first 3 days and then a big item for the 4th day, or at least it's a small item, but it's not cheap. The details will be the same. They'll all be on the site. We'll have our daily blogs at some point today. Hopefully with air conditioning, we're going to shoot the What's in Your Bag feature. So if you ever steal Brian Burt's bag, you'll know what you're getting ahead of time, which is always a good feature. We have many other things. We've spent time, I mentioned this at least once in the past, all 4 of us have spent time from before last year's trade show kicked off to now about trying to make the coverage better, and I hope that it pays off tomorrow. This event was chaotic, but certainly a year ago we would not be capable in any manner of doing what we did today. I don't know how seamless it went, but I feel like it went pretty well, and I also feel like it's one of those things that without the effort that all four of us plus Heather gave today, we would not be able to do. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you weren't too offended by all of the sweat and my little potty break in the middle of it. I hope if you won that you're going to contact us. Once again, it might take a little while for me to get back to you. If you haven't won, we've got more contests coming. And for all of the guests that were on here, thank you for taking time out of your busy days to come by. And most importantly, thank you to our half-wheel staff who put up with a very, very aggressive version of me this morning. So we're going to eat some lunch, and hopefully that makes me better. There'll be posts, I think, a couple more on the site later today. There'll be a lot of posts tomorrow morning, and then obviously once the trade show doors open, you can expect Half-Wheel to do really, I think, what no one else does, which is a bonanza, an extravaganza, a crazy amount of coverage for 4 days while we're here in Las Vegas. So with that said, I'm going to hit the end of this button. Thank you for tuning in, and to my father, Robert Minato, hopefully the audio works.